Good evening. It is September 13th, 2022. Welcome to the San Marino Unified School District Board of Education meeting. This is your board president, Mrs. Jeannie Caldwell.
Thank you. So I'd like to start our meeting today by reading some language that we need to get onto our recording of tonight's meeting. So this is with regard to public comments. So the Board of Education has adopted Board Policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matters pertaining to the San Marino Unified School District. Persons who wish to provide public comment will have three options to submit public comments. Submit through an online form, request to speak during the meeting via Zoom, request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. Should you submit through an online form, you may do so in public comments for the open or closed session on today's date, September 13th, 2022, from 11 a.m. through 3:30 p.m. Comments received during this time will not be read during the meeting, but will be provided to the Board of Education. Should you wish to submit comments, please do so at https://bit.ly-boe091322. And I understand we don't have any comments, correct? So if you wish to request during the meeting via Zoom, during public comment, the meeting will pause for 1 minute to take requests to speak. The raised hand function is used to take requests during the public comment period. For online attendees, press the raise hand icon to add yourself to the queue. For phone attendees, dial *9. The speaking order will be determined based on the order of requests received. Individual speakers will be unmuted and called to speak. Request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. Please complete the public comment card and submit the completed card to the designated drop box with the assistant to the superintendent. We apparently have one. Opportunities for public comment are offered prior to closed session and at the start of the regular open session for matters not on the agenda and for matters on the agenda. The Board of Education reserves the right to add a public comment period prior to any individual item on the agenda. 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject matter. However, in the event there are more than 4 speakers on the same subject matter, the board president retains the discretion to adjust and limit the time allocated to each speaker to ensure that all wishing to speak will be heard within the 20-minute allotment. So A, communications from the audience concerning matters on the closed session agenda may be heard at this time, but not responded to by the Board of Education. So for closed, let's see. So I guess this would be the right time to talk about this then. Before we do the rollout, because we don't have anything about the library libations on our agenda, do we? No. Okay, so Sue.
Hello, wonderful board. I am Sue Viswanathan. I am the president of the Library Foundation, and I'd like to cordially invite all of you and those in our audience to come to our wonderful event on October 15th of this year called Literary Libations. If those of you who haven't attended our delicious destinations in the past will know that it is probably one of the most fun events in our terrific city. I know there's a lot of competition with our parent parties, but we are hosting this event to support our library. It is definitely meant for a fundraiser for our library. And I ask that you please consider coming. I know, Mr. Chang, you've been there last time for our delicious destinations, and you can attest.
Yeah, not just the last time.
Many times. Many, I'm sure, and you can attest to the terrific experience and the wonderful food, and again, supporting our local library. I have left in front of each of you a little card, QR card. You could use using your phone. You can buy tickets, or you can sponsor, and I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful work. Have a great evening.
Thank you. So with that, we have our next item, which is a report out of closed session. So in closed session, we met with our labor negotiators regarding the status of negotiations for this year. So now we can move on to our regular open session, and I'll officially call that to order. So is Nate's son here? You're Nate? Would you like to go to the microphone and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? You're planning on that, right? You knew you were. All right, so shall we rise?
Yes. Can everyone put your right hand over your heart? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Give me 1 second to get organized here. So we need to approve our agenda, and then we're going to come back to you and have you do highlights. So you're welcome to sit down for just a second. If you do, it'll happen fast. If you stand there, it'll take forever. So
I'm fine with
you're okay? Okay. All right. So I need a motion to approve our agenda tonight.
Move to approve the agenda.
Okay, great. Do I have a second?
Second,
Thank you. And now
roll call.
roll call it is. Kelly, why don't we start with you?
Yes.
Thank you. Mike?
Aye.
Joseph?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Aye. All right, agenda approved. We also have meeting minutes to approve. Our first meeting minutes are from August 23rd. Our Board of Education, regular Board of Education meeting minutes. Do you have a motion to approve those minutes?
I can make a motion to approve those with one alteration.
Okay,
There was a reference to me having made a motion to extend the meeting until 11 p.m.
mhm.
And I think there's a typo saying that I then voted against my motion.
Oh, do we? Oh,
So-
yeah, okay, well, that's a good catch.
So we did, but it still shows 5 in favor. It's just a typo. So
Ah.
with that correction, then I would
Okay,
make the
okay.
motion to approve the minutes.
All right, so Mike has a motion to approve the minutes as edited. Do we have the second?
Second,
Thank you. Tiffany, sorry, Kelly, why don't we start with you?
Yes.
Okay, Mike,
Aye.
Joseph,
aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so then we had a special Board of Education meeting on August 29th. So I need a motion to approve those minutes.
I move to approve.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Kelly,
Yes.
Mike,
I will abstain because I wasn't present.
all right. Joseph,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so those minutes are approved. So now we're ready to move to our district spotlight. Is that, oh, wait, hold on, because this is,
He's just going to talk a little bit about Huntington Middle School
Okay.
and his experiences there. So go ahead, Nate,
awesome.
and then we'll transition.
Okay, great.
Should I start?
Yes, please.
Good evening, board president, board members, superintendent, and executive district administration. I hope that you had an enjoyable day today. My name is Nate Sun, the president of Huntington Middle School, and I am honored to meet you all tonight. I will be telling you all about Huntington Middle School, the ASB's goals, and what we have planned so far. For this school year, I hope to build on the previous president, Bradley Wong's goal for more school spirit. I want there to be more student participation and engagement for the events that have been planned. Speaking of events, we have made events for each grade during the Welcome Back Spirit Week, with a fun athletic event that involved all grades to top it off. Our special events director, Kate and Jen, have also planned out some memorable and enjoyable dress-up days for the school, which had a drastic increase in student participation. Also, this Friday, the ASB will be hosting a dance, and the theme is going to be A Night Under the Stars. The stance has undergone careful planning done by the special events director. So are trying to make a good first stance. Also, be sure to expect a new student luncheon to welcome many new students from different backgrounds into the HMS society. Finally, what all these events have in common is the fact that they embody the best thing about Huntington Middle School, the community that the students themselves have built on. They made a kind and welcome community for all the students, and we, the ASB, hope to foster and continue to build on the ethos of Huntington Middle School. I thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Nate, we have, or should I say President Sun, we have a certificate for you in appreciation of your leading us in the pledge this evening. And we'd like to take a photograph over here with President Caldwell. Can you just come right here in the center? Beside you. Smile, Nate. Smile. Okay. I love that you guys all came out to see. Thank you so much.
So we saw a really great video of your principal leading the way. You all. First day.
I think it was the orientation. I think it was the first one.
Yes, and then there's. Spirit assembly.
So-
I'm to be honest, loving seeing you all in one room. That couldn't happen 10 years ago, so that's really awesome. Congrats.
So, Principal Topalian, did you want to introduce your ASB or did you want President Sun to do that?
President Sun, Nate, can you please introduce your ASB advisor as well as your ASB cabinet? Yeah, to the microphone.
Thank you.
Not your advisor.
Okay, my esteemed ASB advisor is Miss Kelly Keto. Okay, so in my ASB cabinet, there is Riley Fong, my vice president, Harvey Chain, the secretary, Claire Huang, the treasurer, Grace Davis, the director of hospitality, Andrew Dane, director of technology, Chase Mena, who is currently absent but is the director of athletics, Hayden Jin, the director of special events, Rafton Lin, the director of school betterment, Hudon Jin, the director of public relations, Allison Finn, who is currently absent but is the director of 8th grade activities, Cynthia Caxter, the director of 7th grade activities, Katie Mack, the director of 6th grade activities, and last but not least, Rex Yan, our member at large.
So I have a question, 2 questions, actually. So you have 2 positions that I've not heard of before on ASB. One is the Director of School Betterment. What is that?
The school betterment takes feedback from the students and acts accordingly on how to improve the school life. Also, it manages the hangouts and clubs for the school.
And I kind of guess the director of technology, but that's just kind of cool. So what's that job?
Well, the director of technology manages our school's website and the HMS website.
Wow.
I mean, not the HMS website, the HP website. I'm so sorry.
Be careful, you might get that
Yeah.
job expanded. That's awesome. Anyone else have questions or anything?
I just wanted to say, I think it was great that everybody came out to support President Sun, and it's great to see all of you tonight. So thank you for everything you're doing for the school.
And you're welcome to stay, but we don't usually have a lot of people stick around when they don't have to. So it's entirely up to you. Uh-huh.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, President Sun.
Thank you for your time.
Enjoy
a
your
great
week
evening.
without the sixth graders.
Yes.
All right. So do you want to introduce 7 or do you want me to do that? It's the STEM.
Oh, yes, I'd be delighted to. So here this evening with us, we have Principal Jason Kurtenbach to talk about our Caltech STEM class at San Marino High School. Mr. Kurtenbach. Might take him a while to get up here.
Has there been an injury?
I won't be limping anymore after next week, so that's a good thing. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I don't know if do you have the video that we're going to play? You do have the video. Okay, so this is Miss Hiranaka. She said she did want to make sure that I introduced her. She forgot to do that on her video. She can't be with us tonight, and the students couldn't either. As you can imagine, they're probably very deeply involved in a lot of this homework that she's going to have them speak about. This video is largely made by students during the pandemic, as well as some students that she currently has. They made that video during the pandemic really to kind of coalesce what they were doing. Remember, we started the Caltech STEM program only 5 years ago. So we kind of got our feet under us, and then we got really going, and then we got nailed with the pandemic. But the kids and the professors at Caltech really kept it going and kept it together. In no small part to many of the parents who are at Caltech, who are our parents. Matt Morris, sorry, Mr. Oh my goodness, I can see all the people's names. Well, Julia Greer is actually one of our current parents, but Mr. Stoltz was another one. Morris and Stoltz, I don't think are hosting people right now, but they have handed that over to several other professors. Obviously, we have run the gamut of different types of investigative research that we've been helping the professors at Caltech in. One of the most recent was some machine learning that they did last year. I know that they're continuing that with Ms. Greer. They did a really interesting one that I remember hearing about was a research based on odor and scent. They were doing research for a company in Germany that was making particular sense for colognes, and then they went beyond that. Really what the students are enabled to do by this program is not just the research that they're interested in, but the research that needs to be done that goes beyond even Caltech. As you guys all know, Caltech does research not just for students at Caltech, but for companies and government agencies that go well beyond that. So let's hear from our students and hear from Ms. Hiranaka, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can. Thank you.
Hi, I'm sorry I cannot be there tonight to present on the Caltech STEM program, but it gives us the opportunity to hear from some past and present students to give some insight to the class. This first segment is from alumni students who graduated from SMHS, but gave a virtual presentation on the class a few years ago. They will give some insight on what the class is like and what they have taken away from the experience.
Well, the first semester, we pretty much looked at different aspects and tried to develop a basic understanding of algorithms and group theory. And I thought that this was really interesting, especially combined with Professor Umans's lectures And I thought this gave a really good experience for all of us.
And after that, Ms. Hironaka presents the K-League table on the whiteboard, and we experimented with a number and test out our hypothesis. And on a regular weekly basis, we report the findings to Professor Umans, and we will have a further discussion about the topic. It might seem very overwhelming at first, but it is very exciting and fun.
So from this course, you'll get technical writing skills from doing the paper airplane project, and you get to learn the research process. So what it's like to basically know nothing about a subject and have to gain a complex level of understanding. And hopefully that you'll get lab experience next year. Usually by around second semester, you get to go into the lab and actually carry out some of these processes that you've been learning about. And of course, you get insight into complex organic chemistry topics.
So first off, I do think that this course is a very unique and interesting experience. Like, how many students or high school students are working with one of the top research institutions in the world, right? Not many. And that's why I do think that this experience is quite invaluable. I also do think this experience is a very good preparation for college and professional research, if that is what you want to get into for the future. You know, you're going to be working alongside mentors, and you're going to be helping them form their research. So you're going to be able to learn a lot about research. I definitely have. Lastly, a common misconception is that everyone believes that you have to be smart, straight A plus student in order to excel in this Caltech STEM course. But what I've found is that what's more important is the desire to learn, right? I do think that this will outweigh, your academic ability, because you're going to be able to learn a lot on the spot. You're going to be able to ask great questions. This will lead to you excelling in the course.
Now, let's hear from some current students who are siblings of some alumni of the class. They will talk about why they took the class and give a brief update on their alumni siblings.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Chua, and I'm taking material science at the Caltech STEM course. I personally wanted to take this class because I had a strong interest in material science as well as engineering. So I wanted to kind of combine the two to formulate my interest in product management. So my brother also took this course, which was a major inspiration for me. And he also took material science. And now he's majoring in industrial engineering at Berkeley. So
hi, I'm Katie Tang, and I'm a part of the material science group. So I was inspired to take this class after seeing my sister in this class. So as a part of the material science group, I can have access to cutting edge research about unique fields like nanomechanics. So my sister is Amber Tang, and she was a part of the organic chemistry group, where she found her passion for chemistry. And so now she is at USC on a National Merit Scholarship studying chemistry.
Hi, my name is Talene. I'm currently a senior at the high school, and I took the Caltech STEM course last year. And personally, I really enjoyed the course because I was able to experience research at a collegiate level and learn things that I wouldn't usually learn in high school STEM classes. And I thought it was really cool, especially because we got to look over research papers with our mentors and discuss them. And also my sister, Jolene, took this course when she was also a junior, and now she's at UCSD studying biology, human biology. And she took the organic chemistry, she was in the organic chemistry group, and she's now taking organic chemistry classes, and she really sees similarities between what she did at Caltech and what she's now doing, and it's kind of helping her in her college experience.
And this is what the course is all about: giving the students opportunities to dig into collegiate research and give them a preview of where their academics may bring them. Thank you so much for your support.
So one of the really cool things about this course, I think, is the way in which students get into the course. Obviously, there's some prerequisites. They need to be at a certain level, but they actually have to apply and go through a process. It's very similar to getting into college. They write an application, they write a statement, we interview them. And in general, I would say probably close to 75% of the kids get in. Some of the times, though, the reason that we can't fulfill all requests is because we don't have enough professors. So that really is sort of the linchpin for us. Our big concern coming out of COVID was, would we be able to get professors who would want our kids to start coming back onto campus? Again, it's our parents who really made that happen. Julia Greer really stepped up and kind of pushed the ball forward with some of our former parents also encouraging their colleagues to step in. Obviously, it's a big ask for a professor to take on high school students. I know ours are very unique, but it's still a big ask. They're still high school students. So knowing that the kids that we're sending there are really, as you can see, cutting a pathway and leading to the ability for us to send more students there. The reason that we're able to maintain this class and see success is in no small part due to the kids. If they didn't do what they're doing, professors would be like, I'm out. I'm not dealing with that. I have real research to do. The other thing that a couple of the students I don't think really mentioned was they are getting to be able to be published on some of these papers with the research they're doing. And so they're able to, apply to great colleges and universities saying, oh yeah, and by the way, I'm published on this paper with these professors who are at Caltech. And that's, of course, a big win for these kids. I think one of the best parts too that you saw is that you're seeing sort of this lineage built up. And you're able to hear from these kids saying, this is what inspired my sister. This is what inspired my brother to go in the direction that they went. And that's really what we're all about doing, right? Inspiring them to take the next step. So thank you, because I know that many of you, well, at least one of you was here when we started it, and you really pushed for it. And I think it's probably one of the most unique classes that we offer. And it's got some of the most unique outcomes as well.
I would like to make a comment. So finally, today we put in the spotlight to introduce for this program. So it's been 5 years. I remember the 2017. So I take a superintendent and also Dr. Gates. I think you are also
a little bit.
True,
I was just starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, then we are very lucky because we have the school parent, they volunteer to teach. But end up, I'm kind of worried because this is the funding issue. If there's no voluntary professor continue to teach our students, so this program may stop. So I always remind Dr. Territory and Dr. Richter, we need to maintain that connection, with Caltech. So if it's something we need to emphasize, definitely I like to volunteer to make sure the Caltech president, they understand how important for this program. Actually, yesterday I just get a USC professor, Dr. Wang. They say one of the students, Ben Miller, was in this program, and they just get the USC most wonderful fellowship scholarship. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
excellent.
So I think after 5 years, gradually, I think they are in the college or in the graduate school. They really follow their interest and go to the I think biological science arena. Yeah. So I think that will be very interesting. The 5 years who in the program, and after 10 years, you see how many they became the backbone in the science.
Well, I think based on what you just said, I'm actually just making a note here that we're going to work with Ms. Hironaka to reach out to all of our graduates and just see where they are and what they're doing. And that will be something that we can add to a lot of things to promote our school. Our profile would be one of them as well.
So my son actually is one of those alumni.
Well, tell him to call me and tell me what he's saying.
Well, so I would say one side benefit that was unanticipated was he was applying for internships. I can't remember. I don't know which program he did. It's all it's all just science to me. But he was applying for co-op internships this summer and he needed a reference. And having come out of COVID, he never had the opportunity to do very much because he graduated from high school during the pandemic, and then nobody was taking any interns last summer. And he requires a co-op for his college degree. And he was able to reach back to his one of his graduate students from this program and say, hey, can you be a reference? He needed a professional reference. And he's like, yeah, definitely. He had just finished his program himself. And so to have a Caltech doctoral research, graduate be one of your references was a pretty nice little feather in his cap to be able to go for his internship. And he is currently doing a full-time co-op internship at a biomedical device company. And, those are the kinds of things where he actually comments, he says, when he looks back on his high school years, the STEM program, even though it was cut short because of COVID, is one of the highlights of what he was able to participate in. And he recognizes the uniqueness of that now that he's in college and he's with all these other kids. And he's like, that was really neat. That was a very unique experience. So it's great that we're able to give that.
That's great.
Also, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Chang for his vision. I was there in 2017, and I know that the board worked really hard on not only getting our students in the Caltech program, but growing the program. I think at one point we grew it to 5 professors were working with our students.
We're up to 30 kids.
30 kids. And so thank you, Mr. Chang, for your vision and for all of the work. I mean, Mr. Chang actually stays awake at night worrying about how our kids are going to continue this program. And so I know that he reminds you and Dr. Richter, because he reminds me to remind you.
We keep it alive, don't worry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jason. And on behalf of the board, thank you, Mr. Chang.
I'll buy Julia some more rollerblades so she can keep.
Yes.
So for the professors that participate with us, is it entirely voluntary for them?
Yes.
We have to
Yes.
find a connection. So I don't know whether we have attempted this or not. But it is going to be tenuous as long as it's always voluntary. I mean, I think that's always a challenge. I'm just wondering if we could meet with Caltech and come up with a way that the school benefits, like what could we give them? Like a place for their kids to come to school, right? Their professors' kids to come to school.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if there's something we could do to make it so that, it was more formal.
Maybe just a recognition also to.
Yeah.
Well, and they may have some volunteer responsibilities as an institution, and we might satisfy that too, but I'm big on the what's in it for me things. So like contracts and WIFMs are really good things. So I don't know if it's possible, but I think that, I think it would be nice, and they really are kind of almost on our border.
Yeah, it's
right?
possible. Yeah, well, we can have a reception.
Yeah.
Just get the, winter, get the student come back. Yeah. And invite a professor. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking we invite like the head of this, like, I don't know who the president of Caltech is these days, but whoever that is.
Mr. Chang, are you still serving on a board for Caltech?
Well, I stepped down. Yeah.
Okay.
But he knows people. He knows people.
So let's talk after the meeting or sometime this week about maybe scheduling some time to meet with the president and talk about just discussing the arrangement that we currently have and how we might formalize that going forward so that it isn't so tenuous. And if you want to be included in that, I think that would be absolutely. I think we can certainly work that out. So let's go forward with that.
Caltech, it's fun.
And I have one more comment. So I don't know that I didn't catch the young man's name, but if this sentence isn't the beginning of an article already, it needs to be. how many high school students, and this is just me paraphrasing a little bit, are working directly with professors from one of the most renowned research institutions in the world. If there were ever a PR paragraph,
Yes.
that's the start of it. Like
I can
literally
tell
that
you
guy, we need
Now
to.
there's only 21.
What?
Right now, there's only 21.
Oh, right. Okay. I thought you said he needed to be 21.
No, right now there's only 20.
That's not true.
But you know what? We can reach out to Mitch too and give him that as a.
Cause I think that is like, that's part of the, help.
Yeah, there is a story there. And so perhaps we can forward the video to Mr. Lehman and also share some of the narrative that you spent some time writing.
And the foundation.
Yeah.
I
and
think
the
that's
school's
a
foundation.
tremendous fundraising.
Absolutely.
efforts.
Agreed.
Got it.
Thank you.
And I mean, it's all good too. I'm just angling it. Sorry. All right. Anything else? Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Thank
update.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll now move on to our agenda, section 8, which is the public comment section. So I have to do a little bit more reading here. The Board of Education has adopted Board Policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matters pertaining to the San Marino Unified School District. Persons who wish to provide public comment will have 3 options to submit public comments: through an online form, request to speak during the meeting via Zoom, or request to speak during the meeting via a public comment card. If you wish to submit through an online form, the public submits public comments for open or closed session on September 13th from 11 to 3:30. The meeting, the comments would be read during the meeting with no further comment from the board. We did not receive any of those today. If you wish to request to speak during the meeting via Zoom, during this public comment session, the meeting will pause for 1 minute to take requests to speak. The raised hand function is used to take requests during the public comment period. For online attendees, press the raise hand icon to add yourself to the queue. For phone attendees, dial *9. The speaking order will be determined based on the order of request received. Individual speakers will be unmuted and called to speak. How about if we stop now and we do that minute?
Absolutely. So we are pausing for 1 minute. If you'd like to make a request to speak regarding matters that are not on the agenda or items in the consent or information sections, go ahead and press the raise hand icon or dial *9 or submit a public comment card. And if you are requesting to speak regarding matters in the action section of the agenda, still go ahead and press the raise hand icon and dial *9, but you'll be called back upon when we reach that action item. Okay, we have no requests.
Thank you. So moving on to the next method of publicly commenting, which is to request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. You would complete a public comment card and submit the completed card to the designated drop box with the assistant to the superintendent. Opportunities for public comment are offered prior to closed session and at the start of the regular open session for matters not on the agenda and for matters on the agenda. The Board of Education reserves the right to add a public comment period prior to any individual item on the agenda. 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject matter. However, in the event there are more than 4 speakers on the same subject matter, the board president retains the discretion to adjust and limit the time allocated to each speaker to ensure that all wishing to speak will be heard within the 20-minute allotment. So we'll pause here to see if we have any cards from the audience or any matters not on the agenda, again, or items in the consent or information sessions. Please provide your comments now. And seeing no movement, and Jennifer seeing we don't have any, I think we will move on to our consent section. So I think we'll just start to see if we have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Sure.
On the instructional minutes, I was looking at the two tables for Valentine and Carver Elementaries. The Valentine elementary total minutes for the 4th and 5th grade says 54,000 minutes. But the Carver is 50,400. There's also, in looking at the number of minimum days, I think is different. And can I ask, is there a different number of minimum days, a different number of minutes between the two elementary schools?
That was the correction that we were given, and that was left on.
Yeah.
us. So it's, the correct number is 181, and Harvard inadvertently had one additional day added. So the Carver and Valentine are identical, and we have the corrected versions in our paper form. That's
Yes.
correct.
This refers to Carver, but Valentine is different than this.
Then the correction.
This
Valentine's
this
different.
piece of paper that was given to us refers to Carver. But
Oh,
I have a Valentine Elementary School table
So-
that refers to a different number.
it says
So-
54,000 instead of 50,400. That might be a typo as well.
Well, but it also says 14 days of minimum
Mhm.
days, where Carver here is 15 days.
Right, let me look at the,
Oh,
'cause
that's
there was
50,
some.
yeah, that's 54.
That's why.
It should be 181, and the uploaded documents in the board agenda, electronic board agenda has the correct number, but I think we were given incorrect.
I'm looking at the electronic
Not
documents.
the one they sent us, the one that's in the
No, that's
corrected from the
So-
board.
So I guess,
agenda.
I appreciate that. So I guess the question is do we have a correct one for Valentine?
And
That
Carver
would-
says 50.
That should be part of the consent agenda.
Yeah.
The one that's currently listed in.
So I'm going to propose, because this should
Yeah.
be reconciled. We just
Yes.
need to get it right. I'm going to propose that we pull just Carver and Valentine. Or
No,
was
no,
there
no,
another-
it's
There's another issue.
Carver. It was just Carver and Valentine don't match each
Right.
other, so.
But there's no question on, I mean, there's nothing to
Well,
match.
my
for.
question was specifically for the two elementary schools. I
Right.
assume everything for HMS and the high school are correct. Because I don't have another middle school or
To
high school
compare
to
to.
compare the numbers to. So that's why I
Right.
noticed it for elementary.
Well, there was an error on the Huntington Middle School document, which was corrected, right, Daryl?
Yes.
And
that's voted.
that is in front of here, you now.
Yes.
So Stuart, while you're here, looking at your corrected copy, the total is 50,400, but in the document that Valentine submitted, it's 54,000
Even.
even.
Mhm.
So what should your number be? Principal Caldwell?
I think we should pull it.
Let's pull it.
Let's
and,
pull it,
yeah.
because I mean, what Linda just told me is that this doesn't have a time. Like, we don't have to
That's
do it
fine.
tonight. So I think it's better that we just make sure that we reconcile it all.
Yes,
And then I think the question is, for sure, we were going to pull Valentine and Carver.
For all four, or just.
And that's my question, yeah.
I think let's just pull all four and then we'll
just-
just bring it back with corrected copies, and we apologize for this error. So sorry, and we'll
No
get it back to the board corrected.
So could
On
we,
the 27th.
could I mean, I don't
It
know if
just-
it's possible to get the same formatting. If we're pulling it, can we format it the same, or is that problematic? Just so it's easier to
No, we
compare.
don't. We format it the same. Sure, absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
you mean having all four of them formatted the same? Yeah.
So there's like a template.
Yep.
And that'll help us when we look at them. Well, when whoever looks at them in the future.
Yes, okay. I think we'll
Um,
all be looking at them.
Well, we'll look at them in 2 weeks, but I'm talking about next year when you do this again.
Yes,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for noticing.
yes, thank you.
So I will move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items 9E, 9F, 9G, and 9H from the agenda.
Thank
Second
you.
that.
Second, oh, you've got it.
Mike seconded, yeah. Okay, so let's vote on that. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you. Mike?
Aye.
Joseph?
I,
Jane? Aye. Shelley?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so our consent section passes. Communication section. So let's start with communications from the Board of Education. Micah, would you like to start?
Yeah, thanks. So I had the opportunity to attend 2 great back to school nights at HMS and the high school. They were great programs, and it's always wonderful to be in the classrooms with the teachers, seeing and learning what our students are going to learn throughout the year. So I appreciate all of the administrators at the school, as well as all of the teachers at the schools for providing that great program. We also, it's great to see photos being posted regarding our outdoor education program for the 6th graders. It's very exciting. I know it's been a couple of years, and I know that everybody's very excited to be part of that great program. The facility and the learning opportunities for that organization look really top notch. And so I'm glad that we are a part of that for our 6th graders. And then I also had the opportunity the last couple of weeks to man the snack bar at the football games, which has been lots of fun in helping the junior advisory board. They're a great group of students that are really conscientious, working hard to raise money for their prom. And so I just thank all of the students that are involved in that.
Thank you. Joseph, would you like to go next?
August 25th, I attend the middle school back to school, which is great. And also September 1st, I also attend the high school back to school. And August 28th, Sunday, as a San Marino Rotarian, I had to volunteer early shift for the San Marino Motor Classic. I heard the host, Mr. Aaron Weiss, may give the money to the Rotary to the school district. I think it's a good reward.
Fingers crossed.
Okay.
It's going to come our way.
And then September 10, I attend the PCC President Advisory Committee. And yesterday, I attend the Chinese Club San Marino 911 appreciation to fire department and the police department. And this morning, I attend the Huntington Library Leadership Council. So we just talk about the board engagement to the organization. Yeah, that's it.
Jane?
So this past few weeks, I had a lot of conversations with the community regarding our upcoming school board and city council elections, parsing out what we do and what they do. I told my daughter too. And just the district state of affairs and letting them know we're in a really good place right now, which made everybody feel really good as we started the new year off. I attended PTA meetings with Valentine, high school, middle school, and the council. Always appreciative of the work that they are doing. A lot of events back in full swing. The back to school night, also attended the middle school and the high school. And I think what impressed me at both of those sites was the quality of rigor and high quality learning that our students engage in. And that it really is a student-centered holistic education that they are getting in our schools. And I think that's something that is often taken for granted in our schools, but it shouldn't be. And that's a big credit to the teachers and the work that they put into just really reaching our students in a high quality way. Football games were great. We won the last 2. We take a break till October. We had meet the principals with our 2 elementary school principals, thanks to the Chinese Club, which was catered with some really nice food. Chinese Club always knows how to put on a good spread. And I attended one thing that was a little bit different is I went to the San Marino High School AP Art Mural Reception. So the AP art teacher is really trying to create a greater sense of an art community within the high school. And that was really neat because I think that really does reflect the atmosphere of the artists collective. And so to be able to go and she had food on display in the office and the kids came, she said they came swarming like ants and they just took the food and ran. And she was like trying to get them to go into the counselor's office and see the art murals that the students had created. And she said she'll probably be doing that every couple months or so. So I invite everybody, if they see this art reception at the high school, there will be food, cupcakes and all. I think you might have, did you get one? No, you missed it. Get the next one, Kelly. And that was really neat to see the work and the program she's growing there. There's been a couple Zoom meetings with Jason, really doing a lot of work with our new parents and our freshman parents, as well as our senior parents to prepare the kids for college and what lies ahead. And then a couple other different things I did was, I'm not going to talk more about this now, but I did attend the LA County Office of Education Ethnic Studies Institute day 1 of 3 with some of the other people from our district, Dr. Richter, and our vice assistant principal at the high school, Mr. Cassim Clay, and one of our new history teachers, Spring Hempsey, and our department chair, Mr. Casey Holcomb. And that was a great opportunity to start digging into the work that we're going to have to start engaging in. And so I'll come more to that later after the next couple of days wrap up. And then I also attended on Saturday, SoCal API Elected Official Summit. Ms. Ryan was there and I won't speak to it too much in case she does, but that was a great opportunity because one thing that really stood out for me was to recognize that I stood on the shoulders of those who had done the work before me. So many people stood up and said, I was the first Asian American, I was the first Chinese American, I was the first woman. And to be able to look at that and say, I don't have to say any of that. Our city and our district has been really amazing about supporting the people to do the work, regardless of your gender or ethnicity. And so I felt really proud of our city in that moment and proud of the people who have done the work before me, like Shelley and Joseph and Nam and everyone. So that was a really nice, unanticipated feeling I had.
Yeah. So one thing, football taking a break till October.
Yep.
Do you mean they're having away games?
Sorry, away games. They're taking a break from home games. They played,
but fans.
yes.
Often go to the away games.
Yes, I think
too,
they went
so.
to Fillmore, but I'm not sure.
Well, that's a major commitment. Yes. Mhm.
Is it San Gabriel coming up
San Gabriel's this week.
this Friday?
Homecoming.
Yes, October 7th.
Shelley, would you like to go next?
Thank you. Like my fellow board members, I attended Huntington Middle School and San Marino High School's back to school. Daryl and Jason, please thank your staff and your faculty for their hard work. I know they put in long hours to kind of prepare to host the back to school night. Thank you also to the Chinese Club who always go above and beyond. I mean, they went all the way out to Beverly Hills to get us the gourmet platters. I still have my cup of noodles that I'm going to save for a late night. And them helping us as a community to welcome our principals. The special board meeting for the candidates was very well done. Dr. Delatorre and Dr. Richter and everybody helped. Stephen was away, but he was getting professional development, right? Thank you. And so thank you so much for preparing our candidates and bringing the information. That's really important so that when they get on the board that they'll be kind of more familiar with what we do. In the past, I have attended the art exhibits here at the high school. And one of the things that they do really well at the high schools, they're starting to teach the students that it's not just art that you're learning about the business of art and how do you make it marketable and how will you produce a piece of art and what medium will you be choosing to display it in. Back to school also reminds me that I continue to meet with Dr. Delatorre on our weekly sessions to continue to work on things that are very critical for us to be aware of in terms of the school district. Congratulations to Mr. Chang this past weekend. His son got married in Hawaii. We were not invited, but I probably should have been. Also, James spoke a little bit about the attendance of our California, Los Angeles area 4 county, the Asian Pacific Islander elected event. And what was important to note was not only that we have the benefits of those who went before us, but just understanding the magnitude of their accomplishments in that room was phenomenal. And finally, this past weekend, Mr. Chang and myself, we attended Pasadena Community College's Asian Pacific Islander Advisement Committee for the president, and PCC is looking to pass the bond to upgrade their facilities, and they are also looking on how to address student needs as they return and recover from COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. So I don't have anything to add to that lengthy list of things that everyone did. So I thought I would just focus on one thing coming up. As many of you know, I've been involved with PTA affiliates for a long time. PTA affiliates, I mean, we sort of call it like the retired PTA people gone out to pasture. That's sort of how we refer to it.
I was
well, you know, you got to laugh a little bit, right? So we host a number of events during the course of the school year. Our next one is going to be on October 14th. We usually try to align it with homecoming, but schedules just don't allow for that this year. So it's going to be the following Friday, which is it's going to be at the Consaneri garage. So many people have been to the Weiss garage. So Joe and Janice Consaneri also have a garage. And if you saw not today's issue of Arroyo magazine, but the one from last month, their beautiful car, one of their beautiful cars was featured in that magazine, and they won some pretty prestigious awards. And so anyway, they've offered to host us there. So you'll be looking for information about that, but Pie and Burger, we think, and Joe's cars, Joe and Janice's cars. And then we will probably start.
We get a ride in the cars?
I don't know.
No, right?
We'll probably start a little bit early because the game's in Temple City that day, and we're hoping folks may go and support our Titans in Temple City. So just look for that. And if you don't see it soon, reach out to me and we'll find out why that is. But obviously we'd love to have as many of you as could come. So how about Kelly? Would you like to go next?
Okay, so we had back to school night, as everybody mentions. At the high school, the ASB were there to help parents guide around the campus because it is pretty big and a lot of people got lost going to art because it is in like a separate building. But there's a lot of interaction between the parents and the ASB members. They're able to help out a lot of parents get to the place where they need to be. We saw PTA and ASB selling both items. I think PTA was selling like pins, and then ASB was selling merch for the school. And the counselors were also in the quad talking to the parents who stopped by or who were early. And then after that, on September 2nd, we had Club Rush. So basically it's where students, the clubs and the club presidents buy food from outside of the school and they bring it in and they sell it through tickets to make profit for their clubs. And it's kind of like a fundraiser. So a lot of clubs and ASB were able to make profit. So it was really successful for both parties. I don't think it was mentioned, but Miss Pauline, the AP art teacher, also works with Mrs. Davidson, the AP Lang teacher, to host our humanities class. I think it's called like Huntington Humanities. And today they went to Animal Farm to watch a play. They obviously read the book about it first, and they came to watch a play. So that was really nice of them to see something that they were learning about come to life. And then in Huntington Middle School, we have, as mentioned, our 6th grade outdoor education. It's this week from September 12th to 16th. And I think they're going to somewhere in San Diego. That's what I heard. And then I also saw that HMS has a lot of new clubs and hangouts. There's definitely a lot more than before. So that's something to look forward to. Other than math team, science team, and mock trial, and stuff that I had when I was there, they also included stuff like chess club, Fox's hangout, goods game hangout. And they also hold meetings at teachers' classroom during lunch. So all these hangout clubs, it's throughout the day and you can choose which one you want to attend. They also have a new academic support and homework club, which is really nice because I feel like the transition from elementary school to middle school can be rough without any help. In Valentine, they had their first Spirit Day on September 9th, and they wore spirit gear to show their pride of being a Viking. In Carver, they had the Carver Walking Club, and it's basically there's 4 routes, and they start the routes at about 8, and they walk all the way to school every Friday. And I thought because I was driving to the high school and I saw the walking club pass by, and I thought it was really nice because that's a program they still had when I was there, so they still implemented it. There's always a parent volunteer at the front and the end of the line, so to make sure nobody gets like lost or left behind. Additionally, there's like police there escorting the kids while they're walking. So sometimes when you cross the crosswalk, the stop sign, the walking symbol doesn't give you enough time, so the police would basically block traffic so everybody can cross at once and the group isn't divided. So I thought that was really nice. And that would be all.
That is really nice.
Can I just say one quick thing? First off, that was a great report. So because it includes all the campuses and the students, so thank you. But I wanted to also thank the web leaders at HMS and the ASB at the high school for their back to school night assistance, because as I was quickly running from class to class in the short passing periods, being able to look at a web leader and say, I'm looking for Mr. Miller's class, and they're pointing me, it was very helpful. So I just wanted to say thanks. And Daryl and Jason, if you could let the students know, thank you very much for their help with the parents, because I know it was very helpful.
It used to be that the passing periods for back to school night were the same as the ones the kids have. Is that, now that's it?
And they have only 5 minutes now.
But they know where they're going, so I'm not making a comment.
They going much better than I did, yeah.
But it is fast, it is. I always remember that being like a point that they were trying to get across to us, that
They
you
were
were
very
kids do
helpful.
this, yeah.
Very helpful.
Okay. Thank you very much. So Superintendent Delatory.
Thank you, President Caldwell. Just wanted to mention that this evening, Dr. Lynn could not be with us because he is on district business in Reno. He's, I know that sounds, our CBOs in sounds funny, right? Yeah, yes. But he is, I think he's on the California side. I'm not sure, state line. But
Did you hear what Jane said?
yes, our CBO.
I heard pointing out that our money guy.
I know, right? Yes, he's there, but
It's really good.
yeah.
Let's hope so.
They were being ironic.
Daryl, there goes your raise. There goes your raise.
Yeah.
She is on Zoom right now.
Dr. Lynn is on Zoom.
Yes, okay, so he's listening to this. There he is. Yeah, there he is. There he is. So what I was going to say is that he will be joining us virtually. He's gonna be joining us virtually. So even though he is in another state right now, he's still working hard on behalf of San Marino Unified School District. Part of his duties and responsibilities as a CBO is to oversee our property and liability program. And so he is there with our Joint Powers Authority. And they do fund his trip, by the way, board members, just so you know, we're not paying for it. They are paying for it. And he's learning lots and lots about how to conservatively manage our P&L program. But he will be presenting this evening all of his items virtually. I also wanted to mention to the board that I am so very proud of the fact that we are a finalist for the Golden Bell Award for our COVID-19 management plan. So thank you to Dr. Stephen Choi for his leadership in that area. He did write the proposal, and they're coming out here on the 20th just to do a site visit. And I'm sure that's going to go exceedingly well. And we will be honored, hopefully not that way, on December 1st at the CSBA conference. So please put that on your calendars. For those of you who will be attending, it is December 1st. We're very excited about that. And I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank Mr. C. Joseph Chang for all of his help and support in our COVID-19 management plan. Went above and beyond and really did help out tremendously with getting us access to vaccinations for our teachers and our students. And Dr. Choi did a great job as well. So we are the model for how to manage this crisis going forward. And so we should be very, very proud of that. So thank you again. In addition to that, I just wanted to say thank you to our principal Topalian of Huntington Middle School. He has waited over a year to re-engage with outdoor education. And so he has worked really, really hard on making sure that our 6th grade kiddos have a wonderful experience in their outdoor education trip this week. So thank you, Mr. Topalian, for all of your hard work and support of our students who are enjoying themselves as we speak. Also wanted to just shout out to our elementary school principals who are new to our district and have hit the ground running, are doing an amazing job. As we all know, Mr. Caldwell had some challenges with his air conditioning during a heat wave. And we did have a little hiccup where we had to send kids 2nd through 5th grade home for the day, and those kiddos were able to transition to learning virtually, which is great that we're able to do that now at the drop of a dime. Not great that our newer air conditioning units are failing. The compressors at Carver Elementary were installed in 2011. So they should not be at the end of their life, but they're not used to dealing with the excessive heat that we experienced for the number of days that it was going on. So we are in the process of seeing whether or not we have to replace the one compressor. There's another one that might have to be repaired. Very, very costly, very expensive. The board is aware that we do have ESSER funds, and I'm going to be talking with you a little bit more about that later on when we talk about the Facilities Advisory Committee. But we do have over $900,000 that we're going to be using to upgrade the HVAC systems at both Valentine and Huntington Middle Schools, because those two systems are the oldest systems in the district. The high school and Carver have newer, but when I say newer, you know, it's 2011, and I'm not sure about the high school. You probably have those dates at the top of your. Okay, so those are going to have to be addressed at some point. And just to give you a sense of what we're talking about, if the entire HVAC system went down at Carver, it would cost us over $500,000 to replace it. And that's a conservative estimate. So we really, really need to look at what the future facility needs are of our school district. And I will be talking about that a little bit later.
Linda, can I just ask a
Yes.
quick question? Gil, when we're updating our HVAC units, are they going to be in compliance with the new requirements for COVID and yeah, and we're changing the filters? Okay. So they're going to be new units? Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay.
Just wanted-
And just to wrap it up, I also wanted to say thank you to our high school principal, Mr. Kurtenbach, for his leadership at the high school. I know that both he and Mr. Kassam Clay have been working really, really hard, getting into classrooms, working with teachers, really trying to be as student-centered as possible. And I know he has volunteered to serve on our evaluation subcommittee. So thank you for that, Mr. Kurtenbach. That's it.
Thank you. Great updates. All right, so we now move to our information section. First up, Dr. Richter.
Thank you,
With our
President
student
Caldwell.
enrollment update.
Thank you, President Caldwell, members of the board, student board member Kelly, and executive team, including Dr. Delvatore, Superintendent Dr. Delvatore. Tonight, I will be presenting to the board an update on enrollment, and the data that will be shared in tonight's presentation reflects enrollment numbers from the start of the school year. So more recently pulled data enrollment numbers. We'll go to the next slide, please. So similar to nationwide and more specifically enrollment trends in California, school districts continue to experience declining enrollment. This decline can be attributed to a variety of factors, including professional mobility, families moving out of state, high cost of housing, low birth rates, and so on. As we know, San Marino is not immune from this decline and has also experienced trends of declining enrollment over the past 5 years. Although we're seeing a decline, we are also seeing a slight upward tick in overall enrollment this past year. At the start of the school year, we see a total enrollment of 2,739 students. This is an increase of 30 students from the year prior. Again, enrollment numbers depicted here indicate beginning of the year enrollment. Now, these numbers are subject to change as we continue to enroll students after the first weeks of school, as well as throughout the entire school year. Over these past couple of weeks, we have enrolled a variety, many new students to our school district. And today we recently enrolled 2 additional students to our school district. So we welcome all the students who have enrolled with us and are continuing to enroll with us. This is absolutely positive news for our school district.
So the 2739 is as of when?
As of last week.
Last week.
Correct. So we have to add 3 additional students to that number.
Where are they coming from so late?
Most of them are inter-district. As space opens up or as new students enroll, they are coming to San Marino to participate in our amazing school district and our state-of-the-art instructional program.
So how many under grandparent legacy?
We're going to get to that,
Okay.
I promise. Next slide, please. So this slide represents the total enrollment as well as enrollment trends by site over the past 5 years. Once again, we see our elementary sites this year continuing to increase in enrollment. We do see a slight decline at the middle school and high school levels, although we do see some positivity at the middle school with a slight uptick in enrollment this past year. It's important to keep in mind that students will continue to enroll throughout the year, so these numbers hopefully will continue to increase. And we may see an overall growth in enrollment across all levels, elementary, middle, and high school. We're excited to see the growth in enrollment at the elementary specifically. And as a result of this growth, we have added additional classes at the elementary, which I will share in the next few slides. Again, we are excited about the growth that we are seeing at the elementary levels, and we know that we would like to continue to see growth at the secondary levels as well. These increases in enrollment will eventually matriculate through the grade levels, where we should see over the years continued increases in enrollment from elementary all the way up through middle and high school. That will take some time, but we hope that that enrollment will be kind of like a snake's belly, and it will make its way up to our middle school and high school. So numbers at all 4 schools will continue to increase. Next slide. On this slide, we see enrollment comparisons over the past 5 years for Carver. Again, as we can see, we're excited that Carver continues to grow over the years, with the exception of a slight decline in 21 and 22, which has been rectified with an increase of 55 additional students this year when compared to last year. This is also 16 more students over the course of the past 5 years. Now, as mentioned earlier, as a result of this increase, we were able to add an additional transitional kindergarten class and 2 additional kindergarten classrooms at Carver, totaling 2 TK or transitional classrooms and 5 kindergarten classrooms at Carver alone.
So it's 2 net new transitional kindergarten.
One new transitional kindergarten and 2 new kindergarten classrooms. So we have 2 TK classrooms at Carver and 5 kindergarten classrooms.
So
I'm sorry,
And third grade.
third grade was added to Valentine. Yeah.
So for these 5 years, is TK in each of the 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Absolutely. Next slide.
When did, I'm putting you on the spot, so do you know when TK began?
TK in San Marino, I'm not quite sure what year we began it here.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, that's okay.
We can get that information back to the board, but it's been
Was Dr. McGuigan?
That was Dr. McGuigan. It was
2013.
Yeah, because that
It
ended
comes
up,
back, yeah.
well, because, and that's part of why, somebody had explained to me, that's part of why our numbers at the high school, like our senior class, dropped a little bit from last year to this year, because they reasoned out people who had qualified ended up doing TK. So it was this weird,
I'm
trickle
not
effect.
following.
Going into kinder, you mean?
Yeah,
So, but how does that affect high school?
so the current senior class, the previous senior class was larger than the current senior class. And we were trying to figure out, 'cause I was talking with somebody who has a senior this year, and we're trying to figure out what happened, why was there a drop? And part of it, she thinks may have been because that's when,
So the kids were held back.
and so they ended up doing TK instead of kinder. So I'm not sure. That was like, we were like speculating that was it. I'm not sure exactly.
But then, I mean, if you use that theory, then they would be catching up, right? Because the numbers would come back up at I think they're gonna level off. That's what we have been looking at.
Yes.
It looks like they're gonna level
Right.
out. And
then
if we can
eventually-
keep these kids that we have currently at Carver and Valentine, and they come up through the middle school and the high school, we're gonna be in really good shape.
Oh, yeah, no, my comment was
Yes, it's just gonna take a few years, but
based on
yes.
past.
How you got there.
Past
Yeah.
impact.
So I'll get that date to the board because I can't remember off the top of my head, but I do remember those board meetings that we had leading up to the decision to implement TK.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just wanting to kind of see whether
Sure.
it was like making noise in the numbers, and clearly not, because it's been more than 5 years, which is what you're showing. So,
And we're very fortunate here in San Marino because our TK classrooms are full day classrooms, unlike some school districts who are half day.
Right.
But they are rolling, I think it will eventually have an impact though, because they are rolling those months back. Because students who qualified for TK were only allowed to do TK if they were born between a certain 2 or 3 month
So yes,
period.
younger.
And now they keep
Right.
rolling it back 2 months younger every year. So we will eventually see more kids
Yes,
added to
absolutely.
TK eligibility.
Correct.
so, I mean, but if you look at TK, I mean, so 2022, 23, there are 30 children in transitional kindergarten, but there's 113 in kindergarten. Do you have another slide on this already? Should I not ask this question?
No, go ahead. Please ask.
So, I mean, obviously, we probably have more TK students in the district. They're just going somewhere else.
This is only for Carver.
Well, right,
They
but I
don't
mean,
qualify yet because it's an age cutoff.
how many months of the year are in?
I believe.
September through February this school year.
Yeah. So if they're not born within that window, they can't come.
So let's call it 60 if we double it to get the whole year's worth, right? I'm still just like kind of, I mean, people have competition for that age of education, right? So, I mean, it wasn't even an option when my kids went.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're going to other places
Correct.
and they may finish wherever it is they are.
And then come
And
into
then come
kindergarten.
here. And so that would still always be, well, potentially always be a difference between TK and kindergarten.
It could be, but as the months are pushed back each year until 25, 26, we may see those numbers increase. Because more students will be eligible for TK
At a younger age.
at a younger age.
And
But
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say though, I do know that there are people who don't realize that their kids can do TK. I met somebody just yesterday who actually lives in San Marino and their child is 4 and they had no idea that they could be eligible. So because they don't have older kids in the school yet. So they aren't getting any communication.
We need to market that.
Yeah.
Yes, it is on our website, but absolutely, we can do a better job of
Like
marketing that.
maybe ads in the paper, maybe even something in the paper about being clear about their, when they're eligible to start public school in San Marino.
Because I mean, honestly, I think you can, I mean, we have about 100 kids per grade level at the elementary school. So, I mean, it stands to reason that there are about 100 children that are TK eligible, full year version, right? Whatever portion it actually is. So the comparative number I'm thinking is instead of the 30, it should, you know, like the opportunity is 100, which is bringing some more in that are eligible and then increasing the number of months, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah. But very interesting. I mean, it's nice we have what we have.
Yes, and if you look at those kindergarten numbers, 113, that's one of the reasons why we needed to open 2 additional classrooms, which is great news for us as well.
And I'm wondering if COVID has something to do with it in terms of the students being kept at home, you know, for obvious health and safety reasons, but also the interruption to the social emotional development. I would think that there would still be some parents that are hesitant to put the children out because the vaccines are not there for the very young children as well. So I'm wondering if that might play a role. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you can speak to this, but politically in the world, there's lots of stuff going on, Ukraine, in China, Taiwan. I'm wondering if we're going to see some effects of what's going on internationally and whether there will be more people leaving some areas and coming this way. So I'm hopeful for, you know, people for new opportunities, but I also think that something might be coming our way that way.
Right. And over the past couple of weeks, I did have the opportunity to speak with a couple of our new families who are bypassing transitional kindergarten because their students went to a preschool program, which served as a transitional kindergarten program. And so they became age eligible for kindergarten. So they skipped TK and went straight into kindergarten. So that may also be the case for many of our families and their local preschools, church schools, church preschools around the community.
Well, there are some very old ones here that have
Yes.
a lot of tradition. So yeah, that's very true.
And it's full day, right? Kinder is going to be.
Kinder
it's
and
full.
TK are both full day, correct? So they have the same instructional day, which is wonderful. And so the next slide shows us the same information, but for Valentine Elementary. And this shows us the past 5 years with regards to enrollment, and very similar to Carver, Valentine continues to demonstrate increases in enrollment. This past year, 39 additional students enrolled at Carver when compared to last year, 95 students more overall over the past 5 years. When we're looking at this year, that's an additional 95 students. And so that's wonderful news for us. We want to retain these students and we want them to matriculate up to the grade levels to feed into our middle school and our high school so that eventually we have this this level of enrollment or degree of enrollment at all 4 of our schools.
So I heard that we were actually looking for classrooms for all of these students at Valentine. Is that, are we
Yes.
maxed out?
That is my next sentence.
sorry.
Yes, so based on this increase, we are looking for classrooms at Valentine. We did add an additional 3rd grade classroom at Valentine. Ms. McAlpine, correct me if I'm wrong, but 2nd grade and 3rd grade both have 5 classrooms. So 5 2nd grade
Still have
classrooms.
the portables back there
Portable
we
still
do.
there.
Yes,
in their classrooms?
yes, the portables.
There's 2, one's a curriculum lab, and one is the for music.
So they're utilized though. You've just used the other spaces differently. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe the same is for Carver, for music, for right at school, Chinese school, correct.
Yep. Oh, what's a good problem to have?
It's a very good problem to have. We'll go to the next slide, and this just depicts the same information by grade level. Again, you can see a total increase of 39 students more when we're comparing this data to last year. Increases both at Valentine and Carver demonstrate positive trends upward and really help provide us with a picture of projected enrollment for future years to come. And we're hoping, like we said, that we see this increase in enrollment at the middle school and high school, as well as these students matriculate up.
So I was doing just kind of the quick look across, to see how it was, how things were performing. And it occurred to me, I also need to go diagonally.
Yes.
So if you're looking at first grade 2021-22, we had 110 first graders. And that number is now 120 second graders, right? So, and then above it, 95 kindergartners, 96. That's really great, right? I mean, it's like
97.
every single grade.
Yes.
It's, in theory, you retain all those students and you've added some more, which is really great. Nice.
Yes, and even from second grade to third grade, 97 to 115. We'd love to keep that 113 if we could in fifth grade, but we know they need to promote and move on to middle school. Okay, and now we're going to be moving on to Huntington Middle School. And again, this shows the data over the past 5 years. Although we do see a downward trend in enrollment over the years, we do see indication of growth at the middle school. When compared to last year at this time, Huntington Middle School enrollment demonstrates a slight increase in overall enrollment. We have 3 additional students and we will take all 3 of them. And like I said, throughout the year, we're continuing to enroll students. So we do hope that that number increases as the year moves forward. Our goal and our hope is that we will continue to see a steady upward trend throughout the school year and beyond. So we're able to increase enrollment numbers comparable to earlier years at Huntington Middle School, specifically 18-19 and 19-20. Next slide shows the same information for Huntington, broken down by grade level. And as President Caldwell said, you can look at it by year, or you can look at it by cohort when you take one grade level, 6th grade, and then the following school year, look at it as a 7th grade. Again, this slide shows 3 additional students this year. When we review the numbers across the years, we do see variances in class sizes, which was interesting to me, where this year the class sizes appear to be fairly comparable. And of course, in conjunction with high school enrollment, these numbers we are monitoring very closely because we know that those 203 8th graders will be matriculating to the high school next year. And then likewise for our 5th graders at Carver and Valentine, who will be coming to Huntington Middle School. Okay, and last but not least, our high school over the past 5 years. We have observed a significant growth this past year at our elementaries, but there does seem to be continued decline, slight decline at our high school. Our current numbers show 66 students less this year when compared to last year. Again, we are holding steady at 807. We have enrolled a couple students at the start of the school year, so that's positive. And as the school year moves on, we are hoping that we will continue to attract 9th through 12th graders to enroll at San Marino High School. We want to get back up to our 18-19 and 19-20 enrollment numbers.
Can I ask, do you have a sense of how many of the students matriculated from HMS to San Marino High School? Are we losing them, or is it just that their numbers were just small for the last couple of years?
It depends, and we can pull that number very easily and bring it back to the board. It's not a significant number from when we looked at students who exited our school district from 5th grade to 6th grade. Our biggest numbers, I wrote that down just to be sure. Our biggest jump was from 6th grade to 7th grade and from 8th grade to 9th grade.
That's the biggest exit?
The biggest exit, yes. There were 13 students in 6th grade who exited and left our school district, and 13 also from 8th grade going into 9th grade.
And are we looking at where they're going and the reasons behind it?
Absolutely, we are. Yes, that is being tracked through Power School. Of course, they do indicate where they are going. A lot of them, majority of them indicated that they are moving to a private school, but we are not able to confirm that because a lot of times families will put an application in for a private school and it may not come to fruition. So then they enroll in another school district or come back to us. I know at the high school, Mr. Principal Kurtenbach has expressed that he has been able to re-enroll students who left to go to private school and then came back. So those numbers are tricky. When you look at them, it's hard to really determine how many students left and did not come back or left for a private school or a public school.
So the trend down is about 7 or 8% each year. And it's that's a lot, right? I mean, there's no getting around that. That's a huge number. And when you look at 807, I mean, you know, if that same level of decline occurs against the 807, I mean, obviously we'll be deep into the 700s.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think well, I know you're going to say this, so I'll just stop, but that's very concerning.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. And one of the ways that we are going to mitigate future decline in enrollment is by introducing and implementing state-of-the-art programs at the high school, continuing to do outreach. I know that Principal Kurtenbach and Assistant Principal Cassim Clay are reaching out to parents. You actually conducted home visits to reach the students and ask why they're leaving or why they have thought about leaving the school district or the high school. Reaching out to parents who have indicated that they have plans on leaving and bringing them back, finding out really what is the reason for students wanting to leave. But what we're finding is this year, we haven't seen a lot of students who have been requesting to leave the high school. They may leave for various reasons, private school or moving out of the country or moving out of the state, families move. But we are very hopeful that bringing in programs like the Medical Arts Academy, continuing to expand dual enrollment, expanding the STEM class at Caltech, all of these programs and really showcasing and putting ourselves out in the community, not only our community, but neighboring communities so that everyone can see what San Marino Unified offers, particularly at the high school. I mean, Mr. President Caldwell, you read that statement from the student, how many kids get to work and do research with Caltech professors, right? I don't think our community and our neighboring communities know that. So how do we showcase that to attract students to bring them to our high school? And I think that's going to be a huge piece that we really need to focus on. I'm confident that the medical arts pathway will not only attract but retain our students. I think that's going to be an amazing program that we have not seen in any school district in Southern California. So we want to make sure that gets done before someone beats us to that punch. But yes, looking at 807 and seeing that steady decline has been alarming. We have been communicating that with our executive team and really exploring ways which we can mitigate that decline, in constant conversation with the high school administration on strategies to implement, whether it's, you know, constant outreach to our community, constant outreach to our parents, our students. How do we really make sure that we don't experience this decline in the upcoming years?
So the only other thing I would just, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The only other thing I would just add is that I think the programs that we offer are really extraordinary, or and particularly the ones that we're in the process of adding. And those are, you know, enormous reasons to come to our high school and to participate. But I'm going to say it because it's my mantra, the other A's. Winning football games, winning basketball games, winning soccer games, having a phenomenal play, winning awards, debate, all of those programs. That's what keeps the majority of the kids here. Those are the programs that they have a harder time replicating if they move. So I just want to make sure, I mean, I know we're focused on this, we're focused on all the A's, but whatever we're selling, we need to have those in the same place because that has to be sold too.
Yes.
Parents have ebbs and flows about what's important to them, but I really believe in the world of education, the entire offering is what delivers the great kid. And I think most people, most students learn the most out of the classroom, and it's usually in one of those other A's. And I think it's just so important that we be very on that.
We absolutely are. And I just want to go back to the fact that I was earlier in the conversation congratulating Mr. Topalian for having his sixth graders attend outdoor education. That is an activity that our middle school provides to students that is, it's costly. And a lot of middle schools don't offer it to as many students as we do. Which is why it is such a huge undertaking every year, and it requires lots of hours of preparation and administrative time. We do it because you're absolutely right. We know that it is a great experience for our kids to have. And there is lots of learning that takes place during these trips, and also building of relationships and coming together and creating a culture of pride in the school that you're attending, and building friendships and relationships that are going to last throughout their academic career here in San Marino. So we believe that we are definitely focused on the 4 A's, and that we are going to highlight each and every one of them. We have great opportunities for our kids here in each one of those categories. So thank you for bringing that up.
Wholly agree. And if I may just reiterate what Dr. Delatorre said, you are 100% right again, absolutely. And that is one reason why for our motto this year, our theme, we have the 4 A's on our logo, because we want that to be front and center and make sure that that is a focus for us to be very inclusive of all 4 A's. I know that Principal Kurtenbach has that in his school priorities and goals this year to really focus on the athletics and the arts, as well as the academics and the activities piece.
And I'm just going to point out, when you get to high school, it's not about participating. It's about winning. Like, be real serious here. It's literally about winning. So,
You know, one thing I was gonna say, there's no question that the Caltech program is excellent. It's wonderful. And unless I heard wrong, it's 21 students. Is that right, Mr. Kurtenbach? Okay. So I don't have the data, but I doubt that those 21 students at the Caltech program are leaving our high school. It's the other 785 that are leaving, potentially going to leave the high school. So President Caldwell's right when she's saying the other A's are important, because they speak to the entire student body. It's not only about the academic elite, the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of our student body that are doing this Caltech program. It's the 95% that are not part of the Caltech program. And how are we reaching them? And how are we keeping them here? And how are we showing them that we are better for them? Reaching those students with their interests, their desires, their passions, and their goals. And that's part related in a way to what we were speaking about at the last meeting, when we were talking about plaques across all of our campuses, because we are embracing all of our students, the entire student body of the entire district, and bringing all of them in. We don't want students to say, I go to school with somebody that learns at Caltech. We want to give each of those students their own identity, their own feather in their cap. And so I think that we are achieving that in a lot of ways, and that's great. It is wonderful that we have those great, unique opportunities for the highest percentage academically, but we definitely need to speak to our audience. That's how you hold your audience, is when you speak to your audience, and you speak to the audience here is the students, the families. And so what are we doing to speak directly to those families to tell them we are trying to find out what is your child's passion? We want to support that. We want to have those opportunities for that program to be supported, provide them quality academic programs. And if the medical arts is going to do that because it's going to reach to more than 21 students at the high school, then that's great. Because number 22 through number 807 They're the ones that are potentially at risk.
And you're absolutely right about that. We have been having conversation after conversation about making sure that we have something for everyone. That we are trying to provide a premier experience for every student on that campus. We don't just have the Caltech program, we have a humanities program, we have speech and debate. We have, I mean, just wonderful opportunities. Our athletic program is very robust for a high school our size. We have opportunities for kids to participate in dance, drama, art. We have a variety of programs for our students to be able to choose from, depending on what their interests are. So we need to absolutely find out what interests our students and provide those programs to support the needs of our kids. But we are really focused on that this year. And I will tell you that we have a high school administration that is very focused on that, very focused on being student-centered. So thank you for saying that and acknowledging that, because I think that's really, really important district-wide.
And I do believe what you're saying, and I see it. And my comments are not intended as a criticism of, you know, we're only focusing on this. We need to be as broad, as encompassing as possible, because we're really not just talking to the 807. We're talking to the 1105 that were there in 18 to 19, or the 1200 that we could potentially get in the future. And so I think it's great, and I appreciate everything that the schools are doing at the middle school and the high school to highlight that. We have people going to national championships in speech and debate. We have tennis teams that are state champions. We have league champions at the basketball team. We have titanium robotics, which is unbelievable. These are all different types of students, our choir programs, our VAPA programs. So reaching out and highlighting each of those as much as possible is what's going to speak to our audience, which is our potential students, not just currently here now, but in the future. So I appreciate you everybody focusing on trying to broaden that as much as possible.
Yes,
because that's what's going to keep those.
That is exactly our focus this year, and it will be going forward.
I think, you know, each of us can have a different interpretation, but eventually I think the goal is the same. Yeah, we don't have to just, you know, point out the Caltech or the debate speech, because as I always mention, this is not the West Lake Harbor, okay? This is not a Polytech. This is the public school, San Marino Unified School. So we accept all the kids. What is our difference? From the day one they come in to the day after probably 1,000 days they graduate from the San Marino High School, we are able to let the outside the community or entire nation to know what is the difference our kids. I can see, you know, when my son the wedding, you know, they invite all the class of 2009, not everyone, but I'm sitting there and watch each of them, think about what before they are doing in the high school, and right now what they are doing. Everyone is so confident. They have a different occupation, but in terms of speaking, in terms of performance, even the dancing, you know, everyone showed they are great. I think that this is the what we need to promote. It doesn't matter, you know, we have a, you know, high achieved student, even the special education, we need to find out what is the way we can teach them, and let them to improve, and let the parent think why they have to put in the San Marino Unified School District. So end up, you know, all the program is important. Yeah, there is not the one is special important. All is important. So end up, all the board member, the district staff, community people, when you have a resource, yeah, help. And then, like, last year I was very touched about the dance club. So I said, oh my God, this kind of performance, why we not invite our, the old folks in the community? Instead they are sitting at the home, we should get them to our auditorium. They will see, oh my God, I want my grandkid to perform on the stage. And then what is the next? And then we talk about the barn. And then they see the, in the summer, the high degree temperature, and they may want to help. So I think more important, everyone need to work together.
Yeah. Absolutely. Agreed. But I think,
But I'm eager to see your next slide. What is the number for the 9th grade? Since we
interesting that you were asking that, because we were just going to go there. But I think, the entire board is absolutely right, focusing on the 4As, and you really can offer a well-rounded.
So I think the 9th grade look good. I don't know, is that related to college admission?
So it's interesting when you look at this slide and you look at last year's 12th graders, that was a very large 12th grade class that we graduated, right? So this year's class is a little bit lower. So that group of 265 students, they left. The incoming class is 217. So it is a little bit lower. And when you look at next year, when we're graduating 193, or this year, when we're graduating 193 students, HMS's 8th grade is at 203, which will be coming in. So it's still higher than our 11th and 12th graders currently, but it's that matriculation through the grade levels that we really need to monitor closely to see who our incoming 9th graders are and the class size that we're graduating as seniors, because that is a significant number, 265 students to graduate. And this year we're graduating 193.
Do we know what happened between the 9th to 10th grade and the 10th to 11th?
9th to 10th grade and 10th
21, 22 to 22, 23, because we went down 12 and then we went down 9. And I'm wondering, does any of that possibly have to do with the elimination of online independent study students who maybe stayed in? Because I know we had some students who were enrolled in our independent online study who were not living in the United States.
That we had one at the elementary level and 2. So we only had a handful.
Okay,
that
so
were
we didn't
living
have any
across the country. Yeah, across.
Do we know what happened? I mean, to lose them in mid-high school is not typical.
Right. Yeah,
but we don't know.
We would have to dig into the data, and take a deep dive into who those students were as 10th graders last year. And see who the 11th graders are this year, and to see how many of them returned and who did not return and why they did not return.
So don't they all have to have transcripts wherever they go?
Yes.
So we know where we send them, right? So whether they actually go there or not, we know the choices of places.
So
they're thinking about.
high school would know, right, where they're sent.
Yes.
Yeah.
We put a matriculation in place. Yes.
And matriculation includes from grade to grade, not just out. Right? Okay. So is it an easy report to pull out of Power School? Just a summary of where transcripts are sent?
Remember it is, I sat in her seat, I just have no recollection of how to do it.
So we did pull a report from Power School for all the students who exited last year. We had a total of 55 students who exited, and it does indicate the reason or where they went. And it would say, let's say whatever private school. But we don't know for sure if that's truly where they ended up, or from there they moved somewhere else.
Yeah, I think it's good enough though. And I mean, for me, it's not so much about what they stated. I want to know where the transcript went, because that's the honest part.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying that people
Right.
aren't honest. I'm just saying the transcript is for sure.
Correct.
She's 100% correct, because if you don't go to a public school, you don't get picked up in CalPAS. It's the only way we can know for sure where you went. We can hand the transcript to a parent, which most parents will ask for one to do, and they can turn that in any private school. they want.
So we don't send it to the school.
They get it.
If it's a California public school, we do.
The only time that's required to happen is they go to a public school.
Mhm.
Then the public school will contact us. And that's because we have to release them in CalPAS so that that school can pick them up. So they're not in two schools at once. So the only time we really know where they went is that.
So private schools don't require that the sending school send it directly. I mean, they will allow a parent to bring it in.
Generally will, but they'll take it.
Well, if you could tell, it would be nice to know. I mean,
And I have that list, absolutely.
From us with one request, so they can get an official transcript. Most schools would want it.
I mean, it's just kind of curious, because for me, it's not just about leaving. It's like, well, where did you actually go? So moving, that's like, you can't do anything about moving, right? So, and a lot of people have moved, and we get that, you know, but we need to clean the noise up a little bit just to see how much of it is that. But if you're changing schools locally, then I think that's the question. It's like, why is that? And, you
In
know.
some cases, it's legacy. And in other cases, it could be religion. And they want their kids to have a secondary education in a religious private school. And so there are some things that we just don't have any control over, but it would be good to be able to provide that information to the board.
So when we started our work on the first non-academic A, we spent a lot of time on that. And, you know, that was the, you know, the feedback we got then too. And, you know, Loyola as an example, right? So Loyola for boys was a place where a lot of, you know, young men would go to school. Some certainly were going for the religious component of education, but a fairly significant number were going because the athletics were more competitive. And, you know, that was just I mean, that we were able to bear out. We were able to see that was the case. It's hard to tell though, because I mean, a lot of people who went for athletics didn't quite realize how big a pond that actually is. And, you know, your experience also changes when the pond gets bigger. So there were a lot of issues, I think, with that, but it's just kind of helpful to kind of see where it is. Because I don't know, somebody said it like earlier, but I think it is really unusual, aside from moving, to move, like leave high school in the middle of that time period.
That's right.
Especially if you're, I mean, the other thing too, that, you know, kind of would be helpful to notice is, you know, my children went to San Marino schools from kindergarten, which was as early as they could start at the time, all the way through. And so they did the, you know, all the activities at Valentine, they did the middle school programs. I mean, you know, between the classes offsite and, you know, the very, you know, competitive volleyball tournaments after school, and then high school. I mean, I don't think I could have, you know, like jackhammered them away from the district at that point, right? Because they're really bonded at that point. Their friends today are many of the same ones they made on the first day of kindergarten. I mean, it's just, you know, it really is that way. So I think it's not just about like who's leaving, but it's like, how long were they with us? Was this sort of just a passing thing? And, you know, maybe it's harder for kids if you come in later to build those same bonds, right? I mean, I think that's true too, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think research says that. So perhaps it's looking at, you know, like,
both.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, there's probably a million other things to look at too, but.
So we have
That's
a
definitely a start.
5-year data, so we also need to analyze from the 2018 to 19, see how many the student from the China, because actually from the 2021 to 22 to now, there's a China factor, because right now China and the US, they are very tension. And also the China, the COVID-19 issue is still not resolved. So it's difficult to come out. So as I know, in the West Drive, they have one the household, they cannot come back. Yeah. So you lose out the 2 kids, yeah.
Or more.
So, yeah,
Yes.
so I think we need to analyze how many because even the Asian student, like the Chinese student, some is a third generation.
Right.
Yeah, but they are born here, but some they are just the new immigrant. So those they cannot come in now right now. Yeah.
Yep.
So you lose some the student. Yeah. Enrollment. Yeah.
Dr. Richter, in terms of hold harmless, and we're looking at the numbers, can you give us a projection of when they're gonna, we're held harmless, we get to take our best numbers, right? So when are we expecting that they'll look at our lower numbers? When will that be?
23, 24, correct?
Yeah,
So
it's a
starting
3-year rolling average now that we're using, which is helpful to many school districts that are declining in enrollment because we're able to use that 3-year average as opposed to our prior year or current year ADA enrollment. And so that is going to help us not go off what they call the enrollment cliff. It's just
only
that
one more year.
we don't know. I mean, they could keep the 3-year rolling average for as long as they decide to keep it. So we don't know. The state's going to make that decision on an annual basis, but that's what we're using this year. And I think that's what we're going to be using next year. Dr. Lin knows a lot about that formula and can explain it and articulate it more clearly.
Is he still up? I mean.
Well, yeah,
he's
basically he
not
plans to present. He's waiting to present. So
being at the poker table. Is he still there?
he's there.
Any more questions on this slide before we move forward?
I think for this slide, if 23 to 24, also like a big jump, the 60 student difference, that really is something there. We definitely need to be very to cautious what's going on, because right now it's a A07. So if then it became the 750, then it's a something there. Then we really need to analyze the factor. Yeah.
And we're hoping
because as you know, for last 12 months, I think it's smoothly for this school district, and also we have the good college admission, and we come out a lot of the program, and even the art is excellent. Yeah, so we need to find what's the reason they cannot stay in the high school. I'm glad today we will talk about this issue, and the whole school principal is here. Yeah, when we talk the one school, I think it's even high school is related to the elementary or middle school, because the fourth school it is always relate each other. It's very important. I think the principal need to understand what's going on. This is like we are in the war. We need to know what is our resource, what we can do, so what we need to improve. So it's very important. I think with the principal recognition, understanding, and then the work with the district and the school board, and see what we need to emphasize. Yeah, is that we do enough, but the marketing effort we are not enough. Like maybe yes, you say we have a lot of every day. You see that we have a lot of activity, but we just enjoy inside of the town. So we are not really, introduced to outside. Like the motor classical, I try to talk to Aaron, give the school district a chance to promote, but they are not really, give the school district a chance. I think even the city hall, they need to buy the ad. I thought we can have a free ad. So talking about the school district, the performance. Yeah, so I think that, yeah, it's very important for the next year, the number.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to touch upon something that you
yeah.
said. I want to commend all four principals. I think they've done an excellent job of really aligning all four schools and making those connections, whether it be with 8th grade move up day, whether it be the middle school and high school football teams getting together, or orchestra getting together, a marching band, whatever it may be. The collaboration between the two elementary schools and the middle school. I think that's really important so the students see the connection of where they are going next. They see the students at the middle school, if they're in elementary, they see the face of the principal, those connections are being made. And that really helps students feel like they belong to this community, San Marino community, and stay with us as they move through the grade level. So I think, the work that they're doing is very commendable.
Yes, and I do agree that we need to dig into this a little bit more and bring back some more detailed information. We're going to be working on that for you.
Yes.
And yes, our principals have been doing an excellent job in making sure that students feel connected. And, the high school comes down to the middle school goes down to the elementary school. So our principals have been addressing that. But I did write down what you said earlier, which is, we need to perhaps market a little more aggressively all of the programs and opportunities that we have for our students, and write articles about what's going on. And I did start that effort last year with Elaine Wu and Ryan Ferran, and trying to send out to the community more information on what we have to offer. And so we're going to continue with that effort. We're talking to Mitch Lehman a lot. More than we used to. Almost weekly, I have conversations with him to update him on what's going on in the district. And so he has been a great partner and will continue to be. So we'll bring back more information.
Yes, yeah. This presentation was to provide an overview and receive comment and feedback from the board so that we can bring back more detailed information.
I just wanted to say that one trend I've been noticing is it's great to market to the adults and the parents about what our schools offer. But I think lost sometimes in this movement of student-centered instruction, I think I'm seeing a lot of parents listen to their children about what they want.
Yeah.
Children don't necessarily want the same things their parents want. And I think parents are really listening to their children, and sometimes children just want to go somewhere different. They want to meet new people, and they don't know necessarily what the next school offers, or they're listening to perhaps concerns their parents may have. And so obviously the education of the parents is important for that part of it. But I think really focusing some of our marketing so that it's not marketing to the kids, but it's really engaging the kids and centering the conversations even around them rather than the adults. Because I had a conversation with someone today whose kid's at a private school and still hangs out with all the San Marino kids, still comes to our activities, but just wants to be at a different school. And I'm like, I don't get it. I really don't. But I think what it came down to was the kid wanted a different experience. So, I think really understanding even what the kids want and what's important to them, and making sure they understand what we offer, not just the parents. Because if the kids don't want to come, the parents are not going to fight with them to bring them.
Right. And I hear you on that. We are trying to connect with the kids. When Daryl goes down to the elementary schools, he's really marketing to the kids. When Jason and Carlos are coming down to the middle school, they're really marketing to the kids. When we have teachers that we share between schools, the choir teacher is an example. If you really enjoy that teacher's program at the middle school, chances are you're going to want to come to the high school and be a part of that program. So that has helped us build programs in many cases. Showcases, the showcase that we're going to have at the high school this year, that's going to be very beneficial. And it was so well attended last year. This year, I'm hoping that it's even better attended. We're going to really publicize that. That's an activity that kids are they're attending that, right? They get to see all the different activities and programs that we have available. So that could be older siblings at the high school, and maybe they're coming up with their younger siblings from Huntington and one of the elementary schools. And those kiddos get to see all the wonderful things that we have. You know, we have to not necessarily take a shotgun approach, but we have to really cover all our bases and try to make these connections with kids. And it goes back to what President Caldwell said earlier, which I really think is true. If your kids are here in TK or kinder and they start building those friendships and relationships and they get engaged in school and in all the different activities and programs, they don't want to leave that necessarily unless they have a bad experience, unless they don't feel that connectedness. And, you know, once one friend leaves to go to a private school, they can influence other friends and say, I want you to come with me to this private school. And then they start having those conversations. So we need it to work the other way around, right? Where the friends are influencing their friends to stay here in San Marino.
I think it's also, you know, we do a great job in highlighting our STEM programs. But not every student is a STEM destined student. And so when we're speaking to those students, when we're trying to reach those kids, we want those students and those families to feel comfortable that it's not only that we're providing activities or arts programs like a great choir, for example, but that we are actually preparing them for whatever career they're going to want to do, which is not STEM. If it's business, if it is in the arts, whatever area outside of STEM, and I mean, STEM is great. There's a lot of students that are doing that. But of course, we're not a STEM magnet school, right? We are a unified school district and we have all of these different students. So we don't want to only just have these arts and activities, which are great to have because that makes people feel included in the present. But we also want to try to highlight academic programs to show them we are giving you the proper training, the proper skills, so that you will be able to pursue careers, whether it's STEM or any other area. Because I do think there's probably a certain number of students that may be leaving thinking, I'm not a STEM kid and I'm not going to go to Caltech, or I'm not going to do, you know, the medical arts, for example. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do that because there are a lot of students that will do that and they will benefit from that. And it's very, very good. It's just trying to diversify, as you're saying, cover all your bases, all of our students of all the different interests, and showing that we do truly embrace them.
And we do have, you know, career technical education at the high school, right? So we do offer pathways in media arts and in business, which is good. So we do have opportunities for kids to participate in those programs, which will prepare them for careers. A lot of our kids are on the 4-year university track, and, you know, we're an A through G high school. And, you know, we are doing the absolute best we can to provide all of these different opportunities and choice. And really, you know, it's about also making sure that the programs that we have are matching up with the students and their wants and needs. And so, you know, we need to continue to survey our students and survey our parents and really just communicate and keep, you know, our options open. But I feel like we have a really good plan for moving forward, and the programs that we have in place right now. I mean, we have such a breadth and depth of offerings as compared to many high schools our size. I mean, I really do think that we are actually, you know, trying to engage kids in a variety of different ways. You know, depending on which faction you fall into, you might say, oh, San Marino's, you know, just catering to, the top 10% of kids in San Marino. And those top 10% may be saying, oh, San Marino is only catering to the middle kid, right? And so there's just different perspectives and points of view, but we're looking at it holistically. The big picture, we're looking at globally. What do we offer? What can kids really do, and what can they participate in? And there's a lot of options and opportunities, but we do need to continue to have these conversations and make sure that we're in touch with what our students want and need and what our parents want.
And those showcases are very important. And it was a great opportunity both at the middle school and the high school last year. And I'm glad that we're going to do it again because I think it was done very well. But you are absolutely right. We have a business CTE pathway. We have the media arts pathway. We have a dual enrollment sociology. We have dual enrollment things that are not just STEM. So we want to make sure that we highlight those and embrace those and continue to promote and give more diversity, because that's where a vast majority of those students are going to go. They're going to get into colleges somewhere or trade schools or whatever path they're going to take. But we want to show them that we're going to be able to give them that solid foundation in whatever it is they're looking for. So highlighting those areas, we do provide it. And I'm not saying we're not highlighting it. I'm just saying that that's how we're marketing. That's what's going to keep those numbers up in my opinion. But I think it's great.
Thank you.
I think lastly, I think we need to face for realistic, the San Marino Unified School District property is the most expensive. So when the young people, when the second generation or third generation, they choose where they want to settle. So with my professional and affiliation with a lot of organization, they are the second generation. Some they don't choose the San Marino because of economic issue. So if like the San Marino, then the La Canada and the South Pasadena and then the Arcadia. So each one is about $500,000, the difference. So for the young people, this is the tool they cannot afford. So end of several years ago, we come out the grandparent legacy. So we need to check is that this already effective or not effective? The
numbers are going up.
Yeah, and also I to see my son is like Chini son age, about 34. He's already in the productive the time. And then when I heard what they are talking about, I said, oh, is that we are coming back to San Marino or I will stay in the South Park. This is a true story. I heard what they are talking about, because they are talking about what they are kid, where they want to put. Yeah. So this also I think can generate some the enrollment. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
On
you
to the
for
next
that.
slide.
It was a very impassioned discussion.
Yes.
So this slide illustrates our inter-district enrollment comparisons over the past 5 years. And as you can see, in 2023, we are at 30% of our student population with inter-district permits. This slide breaks down the inter-district permits by types of permits over the past 5 years. 2022-23 being at the top 2 rows up there. The first type of permit you see is SMUSD. Those are for district employees. City of San Marino would be an employee for the city of San Marino, whether it be the fire department, the police department, a staff member at the city. The next one, business owners, other employment related. That would be someone who works as a staff member in a business here in San Marino. Then we have our legacy permits. Those are the grandchildren of residents of San Marino who are able to attend San Marino Schools on a permit.
And if I could just pause you right there, you can see that the number is going up year over year.
Yes.
We have more people enrolling on legacy permits.
We're currently at 3%, which is up from last year's 2% and the year prior 1% and then 0. So yes. Then we have our regular inter-district permits from students who are families desiring to come to San Marino from another school district. And then,
And some of those kids, I just want to mention,
Sure.
I'm sorry.
it's okay.
Some of these kids started out in San Marino and their families moved out for whatever reason, and they're just continuing their education in San Marino on an inter-district permit. So at one point, many of them did live in the city.
And then the last one is just the total number of students that we have here in San Marino on inter-district permits, 812. And that's a little bit higher than it was last year at 751. And as you can see, our numbers continue to increase from 2018-19 all the way to the current school year. And then the the right-hand column is our total enrollment district-wide. Okay, and then the next slide.
So Jeannie, you can talk about the legacy at the PTA of PTA.
I'd be happy to.
Perfect.
Or maybe Linda can head that.
I'd be happy to as well.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So this concludes my presentation on the enrollment update. I know we've asked a lot of questions, but I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have at this time.
Okay.
And bring back information as requested by the board for our next meeting.
Well,
wanna say
obviously a
thank you.
hot topic.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
And you're still up.
I'm still up. Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about independent study board policy. Presented to you tonight is the first read for board policy 6158 independent study, which includes recent amendments to Assembly Bill 130 and Assembly Bill 167 for independent study program requirements. So pursuant to Assembly Bill 130, during the 2021 school year, districts were mandated to offer independent study with clearly delineated program requirements. This mandate expired on June 30th of 2022 with no requirements for school districts to offer independent study for the 22-23 school year and beyond. Districts were, however, authorized to offer independent study as an option if they chose to do so. San Marino did not select to implement that option, but we do continue to offer our traditional independent study. Updated permanent statutory program requirements are reflected in this first read of Board Policy 6158, and many of the provisions that were included in AB 130 last year are in perpetuity. They continue this year, and those are all listed and shown in this first read. The first read is being presented to the board for review tonight and will be brought back to the board with a recommendation for approval at our next public board meeting.
I have a number of questions. So I was a little bit confused by, there was a reference in the beginning that says 3+ days. Independent study will be offered to students for 3, keep going up.
3 more days?
3 more, oh, yeah,
Yes.
keep going up. Yeah, 3 or more days. But then throughout the rest of the document, the references tended to center around 15 days. So I know that some of this has to do with the legislation around COVID and independent study, but I was a little bit confused about what exactly we're doing here.
So we are, as a district, we are continuing to offer traditional independent study, which is the independent study program that we offered pre-COVID, where students are able to enter into independent study with approval from the site administrator for, I believe it's no more than 3 weeks. And the provisions that were required in AB 130, many of them have transferred over and continue to be in place even with traditional independent study. So for example, in our board policy, we have the minimum time a student can be independent study is 3 days. For a written learning agreement, which was required last year with independent study, regardless of the number of days a student is on independent study, a written learning agreement is still required. The time of when the written learning agreement must be established is different, whether they're on what informally called short-term independent study, which is 14 days or less, or more of a long-term independent study, which is 15 days or more. Does that help clarify?
Not really. I think I
could restate,
understand.
yeah.
Well, because I think what you're talking about having, correct me if I'm hearing wrong. So there are written agreements that kick in when it's 15 days or more.
The way the statute reads now is as any time a student is on independent study, whether it's 3 days or 10 days, a written learning agreement must be put into place.
Okay. And then we have a minimum period of time is 3 consecutive school days.
Correct.
What is the rationale behind having that at all put in there?
That was established years ago. It was in board policy years ago. And I believe the rationale, and I could be mistaken, but I believe the rationale is typically if a student is out for 3 days, they are able to make up the work. Or they have the same number of days per ed code. If they're absent with an excused absent, they can make up that work. They have 3 days to make up that work. But anything after that 3 days, I think is why it was written into board policy, is then it turns into more of a long-term period of time where the student is out. So then they must go on into independent study, but anything less than 3 days would not really be considered independent study.
Okay, so my concern then has to do with if they're going into independent study in line 62 to 66, there are references to synchronous instruction. What is then our obligations to provide instruction to them when they're in that? Like I'm envisioning, for example, someone going on vacation or somebody traveling overseas and coming back 4 days later after vacation ends. And are we expected to provide independent study on those occasions? Or can they simply just look at the work that's assigned in Schoology? Because I know that's kind of what's been happening. And can they just go and just do the work? I mean, I guess I'm just confused over when independent study kicks in versus simply doing the work that may be assigned in class and what our obligations are.
So when an independent study program is approved for a student, whether they are traveling for an emergency reason or whatever, the child has compromised immune system, whatever it may be, they are required to be on a written learning agreement. If that time exceeds 15 days or more, then the provisions of synchronous instruction, tiered re-engagement, all of the provisions that were in place last year take place. They're still relevant. We are not offering as a school district the traditional independent study where we had a traditional independent study teacher who oversaw the program. Our goal is to have all of our students back in person, but we are continuing to offer traditional independent study, which typically lasted no longer than 2 weeks. For students who needed to be gone for a period of time. And that was done whether they can log into Schoology, they can be packets that were prepared by the school teacher in advance with advance notice. But we are no longer offering the Apex as a form of independent study where a supervising teacher has to oversee the program.
So then when we talk about daily synchronous instruction in line 62 to 66, what does that mean?
If the student is enrolled in independent study for 15 days or more, then those provisions become active.
But do we have a teacher?
So that's what we would have to look into because we currently don't have a teacher overseeing the program. That would be, and synchronous instruction is loosely defined in ed code and by the state. And so it could be a one-on-one conference via a Zoom meeting or a phone call. It could be a small group instruction. It could be peer-to-peer consultation. It could be a variety of different ways that you're providing the synchronous instruction.
Okay, so that's just something that your side handled.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in line 67 to 78, so that next paragraph, I have to admit, I'm a little bit confused here because it's a long paragraph, big opening from 67 to 673. And then it says this requirement in line 73 only applies to students. Is it referring to the prior lines?
Yes, so these provisions only apply if a student is in independent study for 15 days or more. A student in independent study 14 days or more, synchronous instruction and asynchronous instruction provisions do not apply. There's no requirement to provide that. There's no requirement for tiered re-engagement should a student not participate in the learning during that time. There's no requirement for documenting attendance on a daily basis. None of those provisions apply because it's considered more of a short term.
Okay. And then my last question is a bigger one, but I'm going to hold on to it for a second in case anybody else has questions.
Can I just have one question? At the beginning, I think I'm just looking for the lines. I think it's lines 7 and 8. It's saying that, I'm reading this to say that independent study can be offered part-time in conjunction with part-time classroom study. Does that mean that a student could be going to the high school, for example, most of the day, but then do one class as independent study at the same time?
It could, depending on the rationale for the student needing to take the independent study. We are not currently offering that because we don't have a teacher that is overseeing that overseeing that program, but it is an option that that can take place.
Okay. So for example, maybe I'll, like a PE class, for example, if there was infrastructure set up, a PE class could maybe be done as an independent study.
There would have to be a reason why the student would be on independent study, because as a school district, we're not offering it as an alternate form of instruction. That would be very different than what you're talking about. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So that goes into, if anyone else has questions, so that goes into the question I had then, because the rest of the board policy draft that we're looking at strikes the entire section regarding independent study, course-based independent study. So I guess I'm wondering then, what's happening to a course-based independent study?
So course-based independent study, if I remember correctly, that was a question that the board did ask last year when we brought the first version of board policy to the board for approval. And I think the comment was, do we need to include it in there if we do not offer course-based independent study? And after speaking with legal, they said if you've never offered it and you don't plan on offering it, there's no need for it to be in your board policy. So we did strike it out.
But we do, and this might be a question for our principals, because if I'm not mistaken, we have, unless things have changed, a independent study PE course.
That's totally
very
different.
different.
You have
So
to
the
qualify
course-based
for that.
is-
Say independence.
Yeah.
It easily gets conflated with a bunch of things in the code that we used to have, that we still have. It's all a mess because it's the same terminology.
Okay, so that's where I think I'm getting confused then.
ISBE is nothing,
Right.
has zero to do with.
Right. So course-based independent studies where a student is studying a certain content area or a certain curriculum, not the general education courses that we are offering at our high school as part of our high school graduation requirements, more focused into one, I want to say one concentration area. So like a business course-based independent study or an arts-based course independent study.
And that's just something we've never done.
To my knowledge, is something we've never done, to my
But
understanding.
we have other programs that students may study independently that is not independent study.
Yes, but it's not a comprehensive program based on a certain field or a certain concentration area. So it should not be confused with the courses, the word course that we are offering at our school sites, like a math course or an English course or a science course.
Okay, I think
Does
I'm
that help?
just, not really. I think I'm just going to accept that there's language that I don't know around some of the administrative regulations. And I'm going to just sit within that uncertainty and be okay with that.
Okay, and I can help clarify if you need.
We'll have
additional
another
clarification.
conversation another
Yes.
time.
Yeah. So the important thing to remember is that we are offering in-person instruction. We no longer are mandated to offer an alternate form of instruction for the school year. And so we are only offering our traditional independent study that we have offered in the past for students who may need that for a very short period of time.
So this entire independent study board policy revisit is about getting us extricated from the obligations we were required to deliver during the pandemic.
Correct. And including some of the provisions that have carried over with slight modifications.
Okay.
It's getting late. Do you have homework you need to do?
Not really.
Oh, you're welcome to stay. We'd love to have you. I just wanted to give you an opportunity, so.
I think I'll just get past number 11, everything under number 11 first.
Okay. You just go when you're ready to go. How's that? Okay. All right, so are we finished with conversation discussion on this item? So this is an information only item. I guess, will you be bringing it back to us to make it an action item next time? Okay. All right, so with that, why don't we move on to goals?
Okay. President Caldwell, members of the Board of Education, executive team, and student board member Kelly. This evening, I am going to be presenting the San Marino Unified School District Board of Education goals for 2022-23 and possibly beyond. So on August 1st, 2022, the Board of Education, you can go to the next slide, which shows lovely pictures of our wonderful Board of Education. They engaged with the executive team in an open session special meeting of the board to review and revise the board's goals, mission, vision, and cornerstones of success. This process was facilitated by Dr. Sapita Yo. During this process, the Board of Education came up with 4 very broad goals, which I will discuss with all of you in detail tonight as part of this presentation. So on August 2nd and on August 3rd, the executive team, site administrators and directors attended a leadership summit at UCLA, where we reviewed the book authored by Chris McChesney and Stephen, or excuse me, not Stephen, it was his son, Sean Covey, titled The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And I highly recommend for anybody who is interested in developing goals that you read this wonderful book. So our leadership team read the book prior to our summit, and the understanding was that we were going to come together, share the information in the book, and use the 4 disciplines of execution to develop, act, measure, and track the implementation of our goals. And we wanted our goals to be, of course, aligned with the Board of Education's goals. So the 4 disciplines that we're talking about are focusing on what's wildly important, act on the lead measures, keep a compelling scoreboard, and create a cadence of accountability. And so those are the 4 disciplines that our leadership team is cognizant of this year and working toward in the context of making sure that we are aligning with the 4 disciplines of execution in terms of our goals. You're going to hear me referring to WIGS, and WIGS is short for wildly important goals. And that's part of what this book really focuses on, is not getting caught up in the minutia, but really focusing on what is absolutely essential to move us to the next level. We are talking also about keeping a cadence of accountability. So during our leadership meetings, we are going to keep a scoreboard and really talk with each one of our principals and directors about what progress they have made in terms of moving the goals forward. And we will be keeping track of that. And I'm going to share a document with you a little bit later on that you also have a hard copy of in your red folder. If you like paper, it's there for you. I'm going to give you an alternative to look at an electronic document in just a moment. So the leadership team conducted a site or department-based SWOT analysis, which many of you have probably done in your careers at some point. A SWOT analysis is evaluating either your school sites or your department's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats based on current environmental issues. And when I talk about environment, I just mean circumstances, not the physical environment. We presented out on our SWOT analyses for the rest of the group to hear. And once we discussed this and evaluated it, we were ready to review the Board of Education's 4 broad goals that were developed on August 1st. and create our own action plans that align with the four broad-based goals. And this, I want to emphasize, is something that as I take you through the goals, you will recognize may not be achievable in the 2022-23 school year. Some of these goals are going to take more than 1 year to achieve. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. One example is under fiscal health and sustainability. The board recognizes that it may be necessary for us to explore the possibility of passing a bond. And if that happens, the first opportunity that the school district will have to place that on the ballot will be 2024. So obviously that is not a component of that broad-based goal that is achievable in this current school year or fiscal year. So that's just one example, but if you can go to the next slide. So here are those broad-based goals, and I labeled them A through D because none of these goals are not in the order of priority or importance. That's not something that the Board of Education did. They did not label any of these goals more important than the others. So to list them as A, B, C, D kind of indicates that it's not a 1, 2, 3, and 4 in priority order. So board goal A is to develop and implement fiscal health and sustainability. Board goal B is to create a culture of service. Board goal C is demonstrate a culture of value and appreciation to our SMUSD employees. And board goal D is to produce high quality global citizens. Next slide, please. We also looked at our vision statement, delivering a world-class education with recognized excellence in academics, arts, athletics, and activities. And these are the 4 A's that we are highly focused on and working toward really developing as we move forward in this current school year. Our mission statement is that the SMUSD delivers supportive environments and innovative opportunities for student learning, promotes individual student excellence, invites collaboration and discovery, and challenges students to take responsibility as members of a diverse global community. Next slide. So let me take you through the goals individually. And these bulleted items are sort of the underpinnings of what we were talking about with the broader goal. And all of this came from conversations that took place with the Board of Education on August 1st. Develop and implement fiscal health and sustainability. So under that category, we have bond, which I mentioned earlier, facilities, capital needs, parcel taxes. We have 2 parcel taxes, Measure E and Measure R. It's very important for the district's long-term health and fiscal sustainability to be able to renew those parcel taxes. We recently renewed Measure E, which is the larger of the 2, and we will have Measure R coming up next year. Addressing enrollment, we talked a lot about that this evening, making sure that that is something that we are aware of. And I'm very pleased at the fact that we have increased enrollment at the elementary schools. I think that is building for the future, and that is a long-term strategy that I think will help us address this problem over time. Fee income, I think that was referencing. We are looking at coming up with alternative streams of revenue. So as an example, what are we charging to use our facilities? That's considered fee income. Developer fees, we're going to take a look at how developer fees are being calculated and collected. Donations and endowment. We've had conversations in the past about the possibility of developing and creating an endowment fund that would grow over time and lead to fiscal sustainability in terms of providing a source that would take care of a broken compressor at Carver, take care of an HVAC system that goes down, because we don't have yet a bond that has passed that would be able to support those big projects. And we know that we have many facilities needs on the horizon that will have to be addressed one way or the other. And donations in working with the Schools Foundation to really evaluate and analyze those revenues that are coming in. Is that something that we can increase through a variety of strategies? Is that something that the Schools Foundation is willing to work with us on in terms of streamlining the way that we process those donations? Currently, the district has to apply for grants through the Schools Foundation. It used to be that they would just bring us a check and we would process it, but now we have to request it formally, and it's just a bit of a project, but it is doable, and we've been doing that. San Marino Schools Foundation and PTAs, we have talked extensively about the fact that we have a lot of local revenue sources that help to fund our teacher salaries. $2 million a year comes from the San Marino Schools Foundation, which pays for 20 teaching positions. Our PTAs provide a lot of support for enrichment for our students. We would not be able to provide the level of enrichment that we have, especially at the elementaries, without those PTA allocations, for which we are eternally grateful for. Those are just some of the areas that the board focused on in terms of goal A. Next slide. Goal B, create a culture of service and communication. So we talked about DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Currently, we are participating in the City Club's DEI committee and talking about those issues that really affect San Marino as a community, and also what is the school district doing in terms of DEI that contributes to the larger and collective community. Building connections with students, staff, and community, making sure that we have relationships that are positive and collaborative with all of our stakeholders, being very people focused. So when we are making decisions, really focusing on how it affects people who are involved. Also making data informed decisions, really looking at the data to make sure that all of the decisions that we are making are well reasoned and well educated. And creating a sense of pride and confidence. We talk a lot about the culture on our school campuses, and making sure that kids have a sense of connectedness and that they are proud to be a Huntington Middle School Fox or a San Marino High School Titan. Distinguishing ourselves, finding opportunities to really make sure that we're providing unique opportunities for all of our students to participate in a program that is either academics, under the category of academics, arts, athletics, or activities that is unique and will stand out on that student's college application. Next slide. Goal C, demonstrate a culture of value and appreciation to SMUSD employees. The things that were discussed on August 1st were employee recognition, honoring achievements, making sure that we have a system in place where if there's an award presented to, as an example, our speech and debate teacher, that we're honoring those achievements and highlighting them. And we're investing in professional development and training for all of our staff members, whether it's administrators, classified employees, certificated employees. It's one of the best investments that we can make in our long-term success. And it really does matter to employees in terms of the value that they feel. And evaluating our total compensation. We want to make sure that we are a premier employer in public education and that we can recruit and retain the best and the brightest. And the way that we're going to be most successful in that endeavor is to ensure that we have a competitive, not only salary package, but a health and welfare package as well. We call that total compensation. And we want to make sure that we maintain that. And I can say with 100% confidence that we do have a very highly competitive total compensation package for both classified and certificated staff. And then we also want to make sure that we're providing a clean, safe, and sanitary workplace for all of our employees. Having a safe place to work is really important in our current world, and we are highly focused on that as well. Next slide. Goal D, produce high quality global citizens, and this applies to our student population. And in doing that, we want to make sure that we have quality programs, that we have curriculum that is going to really provide a backdrop for global issues and important issues in the world today that students are going to be able to relate to and learn from prior to going to college. Achieving the 4 A's, making sure that we have that balance and that focus on not just academics, which are highly important, but in the arts, athletics, activities, all of those things are super important for educating the whole child. And it goes back to things that you heard the board discussing this evening, which involve making sure that we have something for everyone, making sure that we're connecting with the needs and desires of our student population. Creating opportunities for social awareness and competency, very, very important. We've heard from our alum in the past saying that they wish that we had provided more of those opportunities in the past. So this is something that is really important to us. And the board has done a lot of work in this area to date, and we're going to continue to make sure that we can provide social awareness and competency opportunities. Providing robust counseling services. We are really doing a great job of this at all 4 schools. Many elementary schools do not offer counseling services to students. And we're so fortunate that we have a full-time elementary school counselor that goes back and forth between Carver and Valentine elementary schools. We also have a wellness center at Huntington Middle School and San Marino High School that provides robust counseling services. Those wellness centers are staffed by MFT interns and overseen by our school counseling professionals. We also want to be able to provide our students with real world experiences and opportunities. And we talked a lot about the possibility of creating internships and making sure that our students can move beyond the boundaries of San Marino as a community and really understand what the dynamics are in other communities in the surrounding areas, what it's like to be in the workforce, even though they're not really in the workforce. Having those experiences are learning in and of itself. So we're looking at all of those ways that we can provide that. And then we talked earlier about college and making sure that we have career technical education and dual enrollment opportunities for students. We have both of those things as we speak, but how can we build them out? How can we increase them? And we need to make sure that, again, we're meeting the current needs of our student population. So we need to make sure that we have a student voice in that. And then deep engagement. We talked about deep learning and what it means to be deeply engaged and not just on the surface engaged. So we want to make sure that kids really are deeply engaged in the learning that's taking place on our campuses. And we did, again, have our principal and assistant principal pushing into those classrooms and observing deep engagement where it exists, and it's happening all over campus. We've seen many examples of that. Okay, next slide. So those are the board's broad-based goals, and I want to go back to emphasizing that some of those things are not attainable or achievable in one fiscal year. So we're going to have a timeline that is somewhat flexible, but many of those things we are already working on and addressing at each of the school sites. And so we put together, based on the individual school site or department action plans, a more detailed document, which I mentioned you have a hard copy of in your red packets, and it's color coded. But this shows you each school sites or district office. There are WIGs, again, going back to wildly important goals that are tied to the broader board goals, and the time frame, which is going to need to be, flexible, and activities that we are planning to work on, or I guess we could call them lead measures. We looked at the 4 disciplines of execution focused on lead and lag measures, and then the accomplishments. So you see that there's a mustard color backdrop for board goal A. And so everything related to board goal A, whether it's the district offices plan or Huntington's or the high schools or Carver Valentine's is in that color. Just to kind of help you tie it back to the 4 board goals. And if you'd like to use that QR code up there, many of you have to use that to access menus now in restaurants, right? So you can access the QR code. Can we do that from here? Yes, we can. And it will take you right to the document electronically. So Stephen was very impressed when I did that all by myself today.
I'm impressed.
I love it. So you have it electronically. It's been shared with all of you. You also have a hard copy. We can go through each of these things now, line by line, or you can take it with you and digest it a little bit and think about it, because we're going to bring this item back for approval on September 27th, so that the Board of Education can formally adopt their goals. And so our action plans are here. Some of these things we're already again working on, and you will note, because this is a live document, that it's going to be changing in terms of the accomplishment column. You will see us filling that in as we go, and as we are working toward meeting many of these wildly important goals, or better known as WIGs. So I have to tell you that this leadership team is, just so amazing. And they worked really well together at UCLA to do the SWOT analysis, to come up with their action plans. And it is flowing, and such a hardworking group of professionals. I have to say, I'm just so pleased with the team, and our new director of human resources, who is so committed and working so hard with the rest of the team. Just really impressed with every single one of them. And I wouldn't be in the upright position if not for Dr. Richter. It's okay. So what is the board's pleasure? Because I can take you through this right now, but it's a lot of detailed information. Or we can come back on the 27th and discuss it in more detail. The board also mentioned that they may want to wordsmith some of the goals. We wouldn't be substantively changing them, because we're already working on them and we use them to build out our action plans. But if you wanted to wordsmith them, we're open to that too, as long as it doesn't change the meaning and intent.
So we're approaching 10 o'clock. Were you about to tell me that?
Coffee, so
Oh,
I don't want.
so I think before we go any further here, I'd like to entertain a motion to extend our meeting so we can finish our agenda. Mike, you're making that motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure, I'll make that motion till
Just do it.
11 o'clock.
Go the whole way. Can I get a second to Mike's motion?
Second.
All right. Kelly?
Yes.
Okay. Mike?
Aye.
Joseph?
Aye.
James?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Thanks. Jeannie? Aye. Okay, so let's just go back to, I think we have sort of two questions in the information section here. The first one is really around the board goals, and we put it in the information. So you know, one of the things that the administration wants is for these to be adopted by the board so that they're sort of in concrete as the foundation for the work they're doing. So I asked them to put it in the information section because, you know, it was my sense that when we left the Huntington, you know, there was a little bit of a desire for people to digest it a little bit and maybe come back with some wordsmithing. So I think part of our question really is this minor wordsmithing, and we can get words in, it can be consolidated and, you know, in some sort of a, you know, maybe even regular meeting, we could finalize the wording. Or do we have enough of a conversation that we need to have, that we need to schedule a special session just to finalize this part for ourselves?
My suggestion, maybe each of us review this and see if we still have a lot of questions. We may have a special section.
Just for this part.
Yeah.
So I was going to come back to this one because I think this is you know, so we need to publish our goals first. And so if we're happy with the way this is written, I mean, because this is more or less, you know, sort of I mean, we jotted it on a piece of paper on a wall, and that's more or less what's reflected here. So I think that what I took from the meeting is that there was a desire to sort of wordsmith a little bit. But if that's not right, I don't need to encourage that. So, you know, so I guess that's the question. Is it, you know, as you're looking at it, does anyone see a substantive change they want to make in any of these things? Not changing the meaning.
I'm like,
not word, substantive word change, not meaning change.
yeah, thank you.
The only suggestion that I had was with goal D, producing high quality global citizens. I believe that we may have had some discussion on including a DEI component to this.
I think
As far as focusing we did, it is discussed in another goal, but specifically with goal D, working to teach our students.
D as in dog.
D as in dog, produce high quality global citizens. To be a high quality global citizen, we would want to be making sure that we're teaching our students the importance of DEI.
yes, and that is under one of the other goals. I was looking at social awareness and competency because I take that to mean, you know, that DEI is a component of social awareness and competency. And that's one of the things that we talked extensively about when the board put forward a resolution denouncing discrimination. And so I mean, we could, if you want to add that in here as well, or define social awareness and competencies, it's up to the board. Doesn't
I
matter.
mean, if the thought is that it's incorporated within that social awareness and competency, then I can understand that.
Yeah.
You know, that's fine.
Any other comments on just the board component?
For the board goal C, we have the last one we mentioned about safety. Actually, I think we from the HR point of view, we also need to have like a awareness for the employee preventive health. Especially recently, a lot of the residents in this community, they never take care of their health, and then suddenly they find out they have cancer. They are in the very terrible stage. So I would like, you know, the HR always remind our employee, teacher, and the staff. Sometimes given the awareness seminar, health seminar, like how to prevent for the breast cancer, or for male, you know, prevent for the prostate cancer, yeah. The talk, but I know this is probably covered, but I'm just talking about the future action item. I'd like to suggest.
Well, I think, what I was hearing is that you're suggesting it in our goal C. And we would add it either safety and wellness, or we'd add a new bullet for wellness. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be opposed to including wellness and, sort of our goal around our employees.
Yeah, I mean, what I hear him suggestion is maybe health, wellness and safety as one line, that's.
Okay, I
that's
like
fine.
health, wellness and safety too.
So I have a problem with the inconsistency of the bullet points, because sometimes they're nouns and sometimes they're action statements. And I don't, it's one of those little things that's just bothering me. So if we're going to do these bullet points and it's one thing to have these and we're using them as internal documents to guide us. It's another thing if we're planning to actually publish these in some form. So I guess that's my question is how are we using?
No, wait, okay, so we're using them internally because literally we just took what the facilitator and I were writing up there when you guys were talking.
Right.
Just to remind the board what, the broader goal was intending based on our discussion. But when we publish the goals, we're just publishing the broader goal, not necessarily this. This is just for you.
I think it's worth
And
the
for
effort.
us, right? So that we know what our goals, the categories that our goals should fall under.
So two things. One is I think under goal C, we want to make this safety, health, wellness and safety. So let's just cover that. I mean, is anybody opposed to that?
No.
All right. And then I don't actually disagree with Jane. I think that, because whether or not we publish anything beyond the umbrella goal is,
And that's up to you
maybe-
guys too. We can change it, by the way, if it's helpful for you. If you wanted to, we can.
So I think, I personally believe that it's important that we share the rest of the detail, because if you just read the top level, if we're sharing this with the community and you read merely the top level, it doesn't really provide the explanation of what that means to us. So, I think part of being in these chairs is kind of helping everyone else understand. So I think we do need to, maybe not always, but, periodically be able to share the information.
We can change them to action words so that it's consistent. So instead of employee recognition, it would be provide an employee recognition program or plan.
They don't all have to be action. They just have to be one or the other.
Yeah, right. You just don't want the inconsistency. Okay, sure.
I feel my.
Well,
my
since we
11th grade
teach
English
it,
teacher-
we want to make sure we do it.
I know.
I can feel
No,
my English, my
exactly.
my 11th grade English teacher rolling over,
Right, yeah. And this is just again, capturing what we wrote up on those big pieces of butcher paper, so that it could guide our discussion.
Yeah. And one other broad question I have, and I know that I think I already know the answer because she's really good at it, but how well does all of this align to our LCAP, Dr. Richter?
Beautifully, because I'm all about alignment, you know that. And so we want to make sure that everything we do, not only for us as a leadership team, but specifically for the board and for our teachers, classified staff as well, that there's an alignment to everything we do. I think that's really important because we want to scaffold our efforts towards where we want, the goal that we want to reach.
Well, and ensuring that our LCAP budget is going to be aligned to our goals.
Correct. And we can supplement that LCAP budget. We can put federal funds in the LCAP. It doesn't specifically have to be supplemental.
Okay.
But we can include Title I, Title II funds if we need to.
Okay, so you guys, someone on staff will try to come up with a consistent way of laying it out. But other than Joseph's edit, I think we have general agreement about what's here and how it's done. So maybe we could move this with the edits to our action agenda next time.
Yes.
And then for this, because it is, such a lengthy discussion and we're already pretty far into our meeting. I think that it is a good idea for us to go through these.
Yes.
But I'm wondering if maybe we could do them, one at each meeting, so you kind of,
focus on, so it's like, how you do the spotlight, well,
Yep.
it's goal spotlight,
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know, how do you all feel about that? So for each of our next 4 meetings, we can kind of spend a bit of time at length talking through what we have or what staff has as the plan to achieve the broader goal we came up with.
I think it can be a good suggestion, what you're saying. The only concern is that would put it out over 2 months. And if we're talking about you knowing what your direction is and
That's true.
do we
Yeah.
want to make sure that you have the tools to, as soon as possible to know, or the roadmap as soon as
Yes.
possible. So I mean, I would be fine with a special meeting if that was the suggestion, but if the board wants to do it, one every meetings, I guess I'd ask Dr. De La Torre, what would be better for you and your team?
So of course, I want to make sure that that the board is in agreement, that we're aligned with your broader goals. So if you have an opportunity as board members to take this more comprehensive document and look at it and come back and provide me with feedback at the next meeting on the 27th, when you're adopting the revised version of your goals, right? That will tell me whether or not I need to go back, and work on this. If we're in alignment and you guys are okay with the substance of this document, then I can present it to you in these meetings over time. But if we're not in alignment, I need to know that as soon as possible. Right? I think we are though. But if you guys can take this with you, go over it, and provide me, you could even provide me with individual feedback. Just not together, but just individually. Then I can, I will know whether we're headed in a good direction or not.
And so, I mean, I think, our next meeting is the 27th.
Yes.
So we would need to plan for a special session. Let's just say that, there's a tremendous amount of feedback. If there is a lot of, sort of substantive feedback, then we do need to have a special meeting. And I would think that we need to plan for that, sort of that, 21st, 22nd, 23rd timeframe. So maybe if the board could commit to doing its review and giving, Linda feedback by, I don't know, end of day on the 21st. Is that too fast? I mean, it's a little over a week. I don't know if that gives you enough time to go through it, but.
Can I just ask, were you saying that if we needed to do a special meeting, then it would be in that 21st, 22nd, 23rd timeframe?
No, I would want us, so we would be, Linda and I would be working on the agenda on the 22nd, our next meeting agenda. And I would want to have us have an idea of when we were going to have that study session, like, have it planned for, so we could talk about it, in our meeting on the 27th. So it'd be probably shortly thereafter, actually. That's probably.
Okay, so the special meeting.
We would have to schedule a net new meeting. Yeah, like an incremental meeting to do it. I just want to have time for us to figure out when we could make that happen.
Thank you.
So that's honestly all I'm trying to accomplish here.
So I just have a question though about that. I guess because we're trying to, correct me if I'm wrong, we're trying to determine really how long we think it's going to be to have this conversation. And I guess my only thought as we ponder that is at some point I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, these are our board goals, but the rest of it, that's you guys.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm hesitant to give us a long leash to go in too deep on the details.
Thank you. And you're absolutely correct. And that goes back to what we were talking about in terms of governance, right? You guys are the what and we're the how. So what's below this line is the how we're going to meet the board goals.
So I think it's important that we give feedback, but I'm hesitant to say we're going to give another 3-hour session telling you exactly how to do this.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, because you spent 2 days with your staff doing this, and we could pick this apart for 2 days ourselves. Camp right here in the, board meeting room, but I don't think we want to do that. So I think that's my only concern is if we give ourselves too much room, I'm concerned that we will get a little too excited.
Because you want to make sure that we are aligned with this and we're meeting this, and that's what you're going to evaluate me on, right? Is making sure that I come back with results in these categories, right? And that's what this does.
I think relate to the Jen Chong comment. I think when we review this, yeah, it doesn't. We want to give more assignment, but we just read see is that make sense, and also we figure out is that we have an existing resource, so we the school district can do or cannot do.
So can I make a suggestion? Can you guys like really, I mean, please provide me with feedback on this, but can you really focus on this, on what's underneath each of your goals? Because this is what we use to guide.
I think
our
we
action steps.
have just committed that we're good
Oh,
with these.
Okay, great.
So we are, all we want
Okay.
is it wordsmith so that it's
Yeah.
formatted in the same
Okay.
way, and the one addition that Joseph mentioned.
Okay.
So I think this we are good with.
Except for the cornerstones for success. We haven't talked about that, right?
We didn't. And that I mean, we could talk about how we, in your document, in the document you put together so nicely for us to have this.
Yes.
I don't think they're in here, right?
No.
Because I think that so this becomes kind of an important sort of baseline understanding of what we believe should exist, or, sort of core to all of the areas, and maybe just finding a way to weave that into how we do this.
Right.
So when we publish it, it makes, it's
Sense.
kind of, yeah, exactly.
Right.
So someone, doesn't not understand those things are important.
So when we come back on the 27th, we'll want to see some of that cornerstones for success also integrated into this doc.
Okay.
In some way.
Yes.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
and yeah, and maybe it's one of these green pages, something like that. I think you just have to figure, I mean, we just need to look and see how broad they are, if it's big enough for that.
Yeah, that's the one area we never got to that day.
Right.
We talked a lot about it in coming to it, but we never got to it.
Well, and I mean, it could be as simple as, for us, in the case of these big goals we have here, these were things that we thought were important and cross boundaries. So it may not even be an exhaustive list. I mean, that may be something even in our own world, we want to modify over time as we see, additional ones. And so maybe it's merely a statement that indicates that, to accomplish this, we recognize that there have to be many cornerstones for success. Among them include these and others as, to be identified or something. I mean, I don't know. It's like.
I agree with Jane that when we're dividing up on the governance issue, the what and the how, that, I mean, you met with your entire leadership team and put a tremendous amount of time in to the meat of this.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So I agree that we should not be messing with the meat. We're not administrators. We're not experienced as your team is. And so, I mean, I understand we were kind of thinking a special meeting, but it makes more sense now that that point's been brought up. If you want to highlight what you're going to do with each of these over the next few or 4 meetings, then that's fine, because quite frankly, we told you what we want, and you've already decided how you're going to do it.
Right.
And so now you're just going to inform us of how you're going to do it.
Yeah. So
And that's your purview to do that.
we go
So
back
that's fine.
to your plan, right? To have me.
I mean, I
take this
personally
chance.
like that plan. I mean, I think that what I'm hearing, and, you guys stop me if I'm not hearing what you're saying, but, what I'm hearing is that we don't need to review the how. We trust that you and your team have come up with the appropriate how to deliver the goals.
Okay.
So we don't need to give you feedback on that. What we are interested in is, just having a fulsome conversation about the how, just so we know what to expect.
Well, and if any or all of the board members feel that they want to give some feedback, then they can individually reach out to you like you suggested. That's.
Yes, absolutely.
I did want to point out, so there is this thing called Promote NBR. What is that?
National Blue Ribbon.
Oh, Huntington Middle School, 2021. Okay, just
Yeah.
double checking.
This is Jeannie not having a clue it happened.
Okay, so
I know.
Yes,
but
okay. Okay.
I'm just using
I know.
myself as your
So I
poster
think-
child.
I think we have a plan.
Yes, great. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
That's awesome.
All right.
Great. It's very nice to have a plan.
Yes, plans are good. Okay, I want to thank my principals for being here. Thank you so much. It's a late evening and we appreciate your
Sorry,
time.
school starts so early.
Thank you.
Okay, so is Dr. Lynn still awake?
Dr.
I'm
Lynn?
here.
All right,
Oh,
all right.
I'm here.
To you. Do you want to introduce or do you just want him to go or?
No, as we mentioned earlier, Dr. Lynn is on district business out of town and he is going to be presenting the next several items. Thank you, Dr. Lynn, for hanging in there and
Oh, no worries.
to begin your presentations at 10, it's like 18 p.m. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you, thank you.
say
And good
after we
evening,
get-
Board President Caldwell, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Delatorre, Executive Team, and student board member. Please excuse my casual attire. Instead of a tie, I'll be walking around next few days wearing a
Mike, we can't
conference.
hear you.
You can't hear me?
I
Give
can't-
us a minute. I think we need to turn our volume up on our end.
Oh, yeah. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Keep talking, Mike, so I can adjust. the
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me all right?
Let me change the audio.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me okay?
It's better, but I think Stephen's working on perfection.
Turn up the audio a little bit here.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3.
Go ahead and speak, Mike.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me all right?
Is your volume turned up as well on your end?
Yeah, Ronnie. How about now? Maybe I should move closer. Can you hear me okay?
Go ahead and speak.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Testing, testing.
Maybe that's as good as it's gonna get.
Testing. Can you hear me okay?
Okay.
We should just be real quiet and listen.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I think this might be as good as it gets, and we're just gonna need you to use your outside voice, Mike.
Yeah.
Like this?
Teacher voice.
Yes,
Is that a little bit better?
a little bit, yep.
You know what? I can use my phone. Maybe that would be better.
Oh, that is better.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can connect via my phone.
I just turned up the volume on our media computer, so go ahead and try now.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me okay?
No, we're good. We're
Much
good.
better.
Much better?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna use my teacher's voice then. All right. All right, thank you again. Good evening, Board President Caldwell, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Delatorre, Executive Team, and Student Board Member. Again, please excuse my attire because I'm not wearing a tie, but I'll be wearing this conference badge in the next few days. As Dr. Delatorre alluded to earlier, I flew in this afternoon and took a shuttle from Reno to Lake Tahoe to attend the California Association of Joint Powers Authorities annual conference. It is ironic that the California JPA conference is being held on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe, as opposed to it being across the street on the California side. And in addition to trying to figure out state lines in the last few hours, I couldn't help but notice how good the water is here in Lake Tahoe, tap water particularly. Having grown up in New York, I thought there couldn't be a place where water from the tap could taste better than bottled water. And I wish I could bring some tap water back from Lake Tahoe, but I'm sure that the Transportation Security Administration will confiscate anything over 3.4 ounces. Delicious tap water aside, the annual conference, as Dr. De La Torre shared earlier, is completely covered by the JPA. The conference provides professional development for district administration to learn about the best practices of risk management, property, and liability. I would like to thank Dr. De La Torre for her many years of representing the interests of San Marino Unified School District at the JPA level, and for being a valued mentor to me and so many others by being such a great source of knowledge, experience, and wisdom. Now, risk management is an essential part of the fiscal well-being of any organization. And on the topic of district fiscal health, we have a few fiscal action items for the board to review and approve this evening. First up is action item 12A, which is the unaudited actual financial report for fiscal year 21-22. Since July 1st, our accounting staff have been literally all hands on deck, completing year-end closing by transferring and reconciling qualified expenses from the general fund to restricted ones to free up district general funds wherever possible. Now, such accounts reconciliations are a part of the procedures in the year-end closing that are time and labor intensive, with a large number of transfers and journal entries that need to be recorded and submitted to the county. The good news is we have completed the year-end closing and have finalized the unaudited actuals for board approval with the goal of meeting the county's September 15th submission deadline. Some of the key takeaways from the unaudited actuals can be found on page 2 of the report. Dr. Choi, we could go to right there. Yes, right there. Right there. Yes, that's page. Yes, thank you. So some of the key takeaways is right there. The current cost of education expended for classroom compensation, or CEA, in our school district is at 58.18%, which exceeds the minimum of 55% required for unified school districts. We have also met our Every Student Succeeds Act Maintenance of Effort determination, or MOE determination. The MOE is based on expenditure amounts and percentages. Also, we do not need to make any adjustments to our GAN limit, and we meet the requirements of Government Code 7902.1. And finally, our preliminary proposed indirect cost rate for the 23-24 fiscal year is 7.35%. The indirect cost is the cost of administering state and federal funded programs. The indirect cost rate is different in school districts because each district has different direct and indirect costs. The 7.35% is a preliminary rate for the county to consider and approve. Let's skip to PDF page 5. So if you go to page 5, PDF number 5. Let's see. Higher up, that's page, yes, that's page 5. Thank you. So as mentioned earlier, the accounting department has been diligently working since July 1st on year-end closing and was able to creatively and appropriately transfer some of last year's expenditures from general fund to restricted funds. As a result, you'll see near the bottom of the page that there is an extra $1 million of one-time general fund assigned for the implementation of board goals. One of the board goals is in creating a culture of service. We're in the process of restoring some necessary positions to further create a culture of service, along with an increase in enrollment at the elementary level that we hope to sustain to the secondary levels by creating culture of service, by valuing and appreciating our employees. We're working in concert and in alignment to produce high-quality global citizens in all our students while we implement the general fiscal health of the school district and the long-term sustainability of our programs. Now, with that said, it is recommended that the board approve the 21-22 unaudited actuals financial report, which is due to the county by September 15th.
Does anyone have any questions of Dr. Lynn?
I really appreciate that you put money in board goals. I'm kind of surprised. I've never seen
It's
that.
alignment. Yep.
Yeah, no, that's a really nice place to live in, that we can have that money to do that.
Don't get used to it, though.
Oh, I know. No,
that
because
won't
we're going to
happen every year,
achieve
but-
fiscal health and
Yes,
sustainability.
that's
So I will get used to it.
Yes, thank you. You corrected me and you're absolutely right in doing so.
So given that I don't hear any questions, do I have a motion to approve the unaudited actuals financial report?
Second. I'll move to approve.
Okay, so Mike is making the motion and Joseph, you're seconding. All right, perfect. All right, let's vote. Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Mike?
Aye.
Joseph?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. Shelley?
Mike, sorry, I know you guys are voting right now, but Mike, can you show me? I know you showed me the 1 million. That was just given to us, or where did it move from unrestricted? Where did it come from?
It came from the hard work of our accounting team starting July 1st. I'm not kidding.
Mike,
You know how
Finding it in the cushions?
we got so much last year in one-time restricted funds. And
Yeah.
as you know, restricted funds are restricted. Each one has their own little peculiar, requirements, and you have to really figure out creatively, right? Very creatively. How do we use this? And so
Right.
at the end of the year, June 30th, we have all those expenditures locked, right? All the expenditures are done. Now the thing is, we got to figure out, okay, can we transfer this expense to that restricted fund, because it is in some sense that program, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the judgment questions that we comb through at the end of the year in the year-end closing process. It's a lot of work. I was given a stack to also process, transfer journal entries, just so that we, it's money that if we don't use, we lose. And so in the process of transferring general fund expenditures to restricted ones appropriately, we're able to free up general fund. So that's how the money came about.
Okay, thank you.
So we were to you with a vote. Are you ready, Shelley?
Yes, I'm ready to.
And was that a yes, I'm ready, or a yes, I vote?
Aye.
Okay, perfect. And I am also an aye, so motion carries. So can we move on to your resolution number 4, Dr. Lynn?
Yes. Thank you again, President Caldwell. The next item is also an action item. Each year, the board passes a resolution so our school district complies with the GAN amendment of Proposition 4 of 1979. This is a routine action item, and it is recommended that the board approve Resolution 4 as documented in the board packet.
I move to approve resolution number 4.
Thank you, Jane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mike, okay. Any questions? Okay, so shall we vote? Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you. Mike?
Aye.
Joseph?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So moving on to resolution number 5, Dr. Lynn?
Thank you again, President Caldwell. The next resolution is also a routine action item. Resolution 5 is to certify the 21-22 Education Protection Account EPA revenues and expenditures. It is recommended that the board approve Resolution 5 as documented in the board packet.
I move to approve resolution number 5.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? No, great. So let's vote. Kelly?
Yes.
Mike?
Aye.
Joseph?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Resolution number 6.
Thank you again, President Caldwell. Similar to Resolution 5, Resolution 6 is about the Education Protection Account or EPA. Resolution 6 is the certification of the EPA account budgeted revenues and expenditures for the fiscal year 2022-23. It is recommended that the board approve Resolution 6 as documented in the board packet.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Jane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Shelley. Any questions? All right, shall we vote? Kelly, you want to go?
Yes.
Mike,
Aye.
Joseph,
Aye.
Jane? Aye. Shelley?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. We appreciate you
you.
being in here with us. All right, so let's move on to our last item. Recommended formation of a facilities advisory committee. Dr. Delatorre.
Thank you, President Caldwell, members of the Board of Education, executive team, and student board member Kelly Tran. I am this evening going to be requesting that the Board of Education consider convening a facilities advisory committee. Currently, as you are aware, the district is working to replace or repair the two HVAC systems that are the eldest amongst the four, one at Valentine and one at Huntington Middle School. And Mr. Gil Cardenas, our Director of Maintenance and Operations, along with Dr. Choi and Dr. Lin, have been working to look at three different companies that can provide this service to the school district. But it did occur to us that in the past, when we have thought about projects such as this, we have engaged a facilities advisory committee to really research these types of projects and provide advice and recommendations to the Board of Education before making any big decisions. And it would be very helpful for us to have a facilities advisory committee with some expertise in this particular area to provide that guidance and information to the district, and also to explore solar. That is something that we have brought to the Board of Education on numerous occasions now. There is a government code that allows us to bypass the process of going out for RFP. And nonetheless, we have looked at several different companies that provide that service and support, and it would be helpful to have the Facilities Advisory Committee look at whether or not on a long-term basis, adding solar is going to pencil out for the school district, and whether it's the right move to make now or wait until the board makes a decision on whether or not we are going to go out for another bond based on our facility needs district-wide. So I shared with the Board of Education in the weekly board memo the charge of the committee, which is strictly advisory, and a sample policy that we could use and update to bring that back to the Board of Education.
I move to approve.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve.
A second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I do have some questions. So with our approval tonight, what would be the next steps?
So then I will bring back to you a revised policy that is updated both in terms of the time frame, along with the draft document that I shared with you that would be revised and updated on the charge of the committee. And I would bring that back to you on September 27th. And then the Board of Education would make a decision as to appointing members of the committee.
On that date, on the 27th?
Not necessarily on that date, no, but you would have basically, I would be presenting a roadmap to making those decisions on that date.
So with tonight's approval of forming a facility advisory committee, we're really just giving direction, approval and direction to the district staff to move forward in the policy work, the formation, the structure.
Yes, we're not going to appoint members to the committee. That's up to the board, which this board has done in the past, not this particular board, but boards in the past have done.
But that's not what we do on the 27th.
So I think what we need to talk through is the sequencing and the timing, right?
Sure.
So what this does is it gives you the authority sort of take the detail a little further.
Yes.
It comes back to us and a couple of things need to happen. I mean, we need to make determinations about how we select members for the
Yes,
committee.
that's correct.
So that would be something we would do on either our next meeting or, whatever meeting in the future. We're ready for that. It sounds like there's some immediate need. So, and, I'm kind of believing that this would be on our next agenda. And we would, make the decision around board member participation as well as attendees.
Correct.
Okay.
So one thing I also want to make clear in our next meeting, not today, but when we talk about what is the role of the facility advisory committee, although it's very clear that they serve only in an advisory capacity, I would like us to have some clarity as to what exactly they're advising us, the parameters of their role, because I think putting them forward and just saying, we want you to advise us around what's the objective that we have in forming the facility advisory committee? Does this board have cohesion around what those objectives are so that we can be clear in putting a committee together that they know exactly what it is that they're working on. And then just a side note, if we're going to be looking at solar, we may as well also look at sustainable landscaping. Water is going to be a very precious commodity in the next 10 to 15 years, and we want to think also about that.
So I think that with the motion that's out there that to address your questions of, well, what does this committee do? We are setting up the committee to advise the Board of Education on the district's capital project needs, financing options, and alternatives. That's what the Facilities Advisory Committee
Right.
would be. So I mean,
Yes.
that's the goals.
Right.
I mean, is that what you're referring to?
I guess I just feel that it's very broad. And my concern is that as they get into the work, that it may become easy to get lost in.
Well, we would need to have a chairperson who would work to facilitate the meeting so that doesn't happen, who is very crystal clear on what the objectives are and the scope of what the committee's role is. And so it helps to have a very strong facilitator that comes in and kind of, works within those boundaries and reminds the advisory committee that they are strictly advisory and that this is within the scope. It's important that the board, appoint someone to that particular position who is strong in that area. And then I know that in the past, we've had several people who have had some kind of background in construction or related areas, architects, construction project managers, those kinds of people who have expertise that you want serving on the committee. But we can come up with a more specific charge for each project. We just really want them to take a look at the project, right? And to advise the board on whether or not it's worth, exploring and pursuing.
But because that's a very different mandate than the last one.
And I think the mandate is the last one. I think it is the same.
If-
And the idea, because I mean, at the end of the day, we need a very large construction bond to take care of the infrastructure for our school sites. Now, what that totals, that's a TBD, right? And I think the number one goal, and I mean, we talked about that even with our board goals, right? The fact that we need to have a capital plan, which, this is kind of the way that you go about doing that here. I mean, there may be other ways, but, at the end of the day, we need to have a working group of some mix of people who come back and say, here's what needs doing. And here's what we estimate the cost of those things to be. So the board then has the basis on which to have conversations and discussion about whether or not it wants to move forward with a construction bond. I think I think what's muddying the waters a little bit is that we're talking about the air conditioning and solar and, you know, whatever else there is, all of which is a component of that. I think the district staff's just trying to take advantage of the fact that we're forming the committee. And at some point, they would be looking at those things anyway, but we happen to have an immediate need.
Yeah.
And
because
so
of
we
that.
leverage them for, you know, some level of research on it that, you know, this group doesn't have to do immediately. So that I think it's sort of two-part. There's like a short term, take a look at this, but keep in mind, you know, the ultimate charge of the advisory committee is to really help come back with a plan for what needs doing. And if the board wants to sort of in parallel, like, you know, I mean, we didn't have, there were limits in the last facilities advisory committee, but the limit was based on, you know, like what the district could fund, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of how you capture how those dollars work. Well, interest rates are higher now, right? So here's the downside. Part of that is in the calculation. So while we might have been able to afford a $200 million, I mean, we afford the district, the community be able to afford $200 million. That was at a much lower interest rate than what we have today. I mean, we need to do that math again, right? We need to see what it is we could possibly do. Because I mean, there was at least $140 million of deferred maintenance in that list, just initially.
And I guess that's my concern is, are we looking at generating a relevant current facility needs assessment?
Yes.
Or are we looking at what was generated in the past?
Oh,
and
you have to
saying-
start over now.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's helpful for me to, for us as a board to make sure we all understand are on the same page with.
In line with goal A, one of the components of our action plan is to get an updated facilities needs assessment done and a facilities master plan. And so all the things that we need to have in place and to accomplish prior to us being able to put it on the ballot. And there are things that the board needs to do 88 days prior to, you know, the election. There's just a timeline that we have to back into.
It's not.
Yeah. So, you know, having a facilities advisory committee that has expertise and can begin looking at some of these things would be exceedingly helpful. And I think very smart for the board to put together now. The HVAC issue we're looking at now, because we have to, that money is dedicated for that purpose. It's restricted for that purpose. And we have to spend it by 2024. And it takes a long time to get these projects off the ground too. So months. So we have to start somewhere. And we just want to make sure that the board feels comfortable with the direction that staff is recommending we go in with respect to the HVAC projects at Valentine and Huntington. But we also think that that's going to, the committee is going to lead to, you know, lead into bigger things, including a possible bond measure in 2024.
So with this action item, though, we're really just taking action on the facility advisory committee.
The creation
Right.
of one.
Right.
And we need to come back next time.
Yep.
And talk about how we staff it
Right.
and how we mandate what it does. And some level of timing, you know, what needs to be done when. Because there's a huge amount of work that needs to happen on the front end to get you know, the expertise on the committee up to speed about the current state of the district. And that was fairly involved the last time, and we're even further away from a lot of the work that, you know, had been done in preparation for that committee.
Right.
So I think, you know, honestly, I think it's just an enormous amount of just basic learning that needs to happen before people could truly move forward.
Yeah, and I want to acknowledge and thank President Caldwell for her work in the last committee that you worked on the facilities, because you spent a year doing the work and the heavy lifting. So I just want to thank you and recognize that.
So we find a job for.
Yeah, we already have our chair right there.
Very fair.
I was very strategic in thanking you.
Very funny. Well, let's get it all laid out first. How's that? But I mean, I think honestly, there's no way that, that the work that needs doing on the district properties gets done any other way than with a capital bond. I mean, it's just no other way. All right, so I forget, do we have a motion?
I think we have a motion
And a second. Who did what? You
I
got,
make motion as.
okay,
Mike
okay.
second, yeah.
All right, so are we now ready to vote?
Yes.
Kelly? Your yes. All right. Thank you, Mike.
Aye.
Lisa, Jane? Aye. Shelley?
Aye.
Jeannie? Aye.
Thank you. I'll bring back information on the 27th.
Awesome. Well, we're ready to adjourn and I just want to point out it's not 11 o'clock. Are there any board superintendent discussion items, I guess?
No,
What are we doing? Why are we?
no, I don't know. I thought he
Just
was gonna
saying
say
before
something.
adjournment, we had board.
Oh, he was just pointing out my.
Point out.
I
Okay,
thought you were gonna say something. Oh, sorry.
okay.
Now the homecoming parade, yeah, so what is the arrangement?
Oh, I think we're getting emails around that from Jennifer Del Torre. She's been emailing.
Mrs.
Yeah,
Delatorre.
okay, yeah.
We let her know.
Yeah, so you're letting her know whether you plan to attend?
Yeah,
Okay.
everyone already responded.
Okay.
And just so you know, I'm out of town that week,
Oh.
so I can't be there.
Okay. Does anybody else have a convertible? Because I was told that I was taking,
I could buy one. Or rent one.
yeah, I was told that I was taking the executive team, or who am I taking?
Executive and working with the high school on cars for the board,
Okay,
so we should be okay.
okay,
They usually provide one for us, thank goodness.
okay.
Should we borrow the Lisa Lin truck again?
Was it a track? Oh, yeah.
Oh, you didn't know?
Oh, yeah.
Well, her husband.
So the
Yeah.
halfway and then.
That's awesome.
Stop.
All right. Well, I think that concludes our meeting tonight. So with that, I'm going to adjourn. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.